Chapter 306. When the images finally disappeared, Qin Jianmei was still wrapped up in Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo's spiritual energy, trembling all over. The images that had appeared before her eyes were all images of a past that she couldn't bear to look back on. She had thought that as long as no one knew about it, it wouldn't affect her in the slightest. When she had made up her mind to do this, she had buried her conscience, believing that she wouldn't feel any remorse. But when she saw the wooden expression on her face as she dug her father's heart out of his chest, the callous expression on her face as she placed the poison in Lin Yuemei's medicine, the sinister expression on her face as she used her daughter to send Madame a medicine that could drive a person insane. When these images reappeared before her eyes, she didn't dare face them. Her entire body trembled in fear. As Li Mo released his spiritual energy, he looked at Yun Ruoyan. The images clearly showed how Yun Ruoyan's mother Lin Yuemei had been poisoned by Qin Jianmei, and that her father wasn't Yun Lan, but a man named Long Yin. Li Mo didn't know that Yun Ruoyan had long known about her parentage, so he was very worried for her. However, Yun Ruoyan was unexpectedly resolute and calm, and he was relieved to turn his attention back to Qin Jianmei's resentment. On the ground, Yun Lan looked up at the three figures in midair, his brows tightly knitted together. Back in the alternate dimension, he had seen demonic puppets being slaughtered. Under normal circumstances, as long as a low-level demonic chi puppet killed its refiner, the puppet would disappear along with it. Only a high-level demonic chi puppet could reach the point where it could fuse with its refiner's psyche power. Yun Lan hadn't expected Qin Jianmei's demonic puppet to have reached such a level. Yun Lan looked at Qin Jianmei's lifeless corpse by his side and his eyes darkened. Within the demonic puppet's body, Qin Jianmei existed in the form of spiritual energy. Both Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan had seen everything that had happened. Madam Qin, you've already paid the price for your actions. You're already dead, so don't be so stubborn. Li Mo's voice reverberated throughout the demonic puppet's body. I'm already dead? Li Mo's words caused Qin Jianmei to suddenly realize that she was already dead. She raised her head to look at her surroundings, then laughed bitterly. I've been a vagabond for half my life, hoping to change my fate, but this is the end. Why is God so unfair to me? I can't accept this. Seeing Qin Jianmei in such a miserable state, Yun Ruoyan should have been delighted. But because of her past life's experiences, Yun Ruoyan could empathize with her pain and indignation. None of them were originally evil people, but because of fate they fell into the whirlpool of fate. One wrong step led to many wrong steps, and in the end they were beyond redemption. In her past life, Yun Ruoyan had been weak and gullible, resulting in a tragic end. Qin Jianmei, on the other hand, listened to Yun Lan's sweet words and planted feelings for someone who didn't love her at all. In the end she went astray and didn't end well either. Madam Qin, Yun Ruoyan began. Do you believe in reincarnation? If fate gave you another chance to reincarnate, would you live the same way you did in this life? Yun Ruoyan's sudden question startled Qin Jianmei. The shamanic tribe believed in reincarnation, which was why they used the Buddhas of the past and bodhisattvas of the present as sacrificial offerings. However, reincarnation were illusory, and even if they believed in it, they couldn't be sure. If there were reincarnation, I'd keep my eyes open, and I'd never trust a man's promises so easily again. I'd rely on my own abilities, and even if I had to live a simple and ordinary life, I'd never do such heartless things again, Qin Jianmei declared. In that case, why don't you let go of your obsession, disperse the demonic puppet, and go where you belong? Who knows, perhaps you'll have a chance to start anew in your next life. Qin Jianmei was stunned again. After a while she said, I harmed your mother and you. Don't you hate me? Yun Ruoyan, you should be itching to turn me into dust. Yun Ruoyan hadn't expected Qin Jianmei to recognize her, and she quickly calmed down. You're already dead and I've avenged you. However, if you still want to cause trouble, I don't mind turning you into dust. But Qin Jianmei suddenly laughed. Ruoyan, I actually quite like you. You're not at all like your mother. Your mother is beautiful, but she is not as beautiful as you. You are intelligent, smart and penetrating. Madam Qin, Yun Ruoyan sighed. I hope that you'll give yourself a chance. Ha 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 ha. Qin Jianmei laughed softly. A lifetime of bitterness, a lifetime of bitterness. To me, turning into dust might be the best outcome. As soon as Qin Jianmei finished speaking, the demonic puppet began to grow larger and larger, so much so that Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo's spiritual energy couldn't suppress it any longer. The moment Lin Yueme was killed by Yun Lan's sword, the motionless demonic puppet began to move. There was a loud bang. The demonic puppet swung its gigantic fists at Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan. Li Mo dodged the attack with his sword, but the puppet's spiritual energy suppression on Qin Jianmei was also broken. "Oh no," Li Mo murmured. The demonic puppet's about to completely fuse with the demonic puppet. Yun Ruoyan's scarlet eye appeared in her hands, and Li Mo summoned a fireball and an icicle. The two of them were prepared for battle at a moment's notice. However, the demonic chi puppet turned its huge body around and locked its attack on Yun Lan. This was the man she had loved all her life, but had never been able to possess. "Even if I'm reduced to dust, I'll take you down with me," Qin Jianmei shouted, and the demonic puppet spat out two streams of demonic energy, one black and one red, at Yun Lan. The two streams of demonic energy transformed into two gigantic demonic hands that lunged at Yun Lan. Although they were both demonic hands, they were imbued with powerful demonic energy. The demonic energy formed a strong gust of wind that blew Su Nan Mo away and even Yun Moxiao into a corner. Only Yun Lan seemed unaffected. His hands were clasped behind his back, and he stared at the demonic hands as they reached for him. One of the two demonic hands grabbed Yun Lan's neck, while the other grabbed his legs and lifted him up. "Yun Lan, you're my demonic energy. Only with your death can I be reborn." Qin Jinmei's demonic puppet raised its gigantic fist at Yun Lan. With a loud boom, the fist came crashing down on Yun Lan. However, Yun Lan didn't die as she had hoped. Qin Jianmei felt a powerful force resisting her full-strength attack. Under the demonic puppet's fist, Yun Lan's entire body glowed with a dazzling white spiritual energy. Yun Ruoyan knew that this white light was a spiritual barrier. Any 8th-rank blade master would have a spiritual barrier appear on the surface of their body in the face of extreme danger. However, if the level of the attack exceeded the cultivation of the cultivator, then the spiritual power film would be useless. Only when the level of the attack was lower than the level of the spiritual power film would the spiritual power film play a role in protecting the cultivator. When the difference in cultivation was large enough, the spirit power film could even reflect attacks. Zhou Yifeng had once been seriously injured by Li Mo's spiritual barrier. Yun Lan's spiritual power membrane could actually resist the demonic chi puppet's attack. This meant that his current cultivation had already surpassed the demonic chi puppet's level. Yun Ruoyan was extremely shocked. Yun Lan rarely revealed his cultivation in front of others, but she didn't expect his cultivation to be so high. "So this is what it means to be a sword saint." Li Mo's voice rang out by Yun Ruoyan's ear. That cloudy sky fruit really helped him a lot. The white spiritual energy on the surface of Yun Lan's body grew brighter and brighter, and the demonic puppet's fist was pushed further and further away by the spiritual barrier. With a bang, the demonic chi puppet's huge body was sent flying by Yun Lan's spirit force film. It crashed into the wall behind it and collapsed the entire wall of the tea house. The white barrier around Yun Lan's body slowly turned red. More accurately, it wasn't red but red flames. Yun Lan also cultivated fire-attuned spiritual energy, but she didn't know what kind of external fire-attuned spiritual technique he had used to envelop his entire body in flames. The two black and red demonic hands quickly turned into gray smoke under the spiritual fire on the surface of Yun Lan's body and disappeared. A blood-red sword light appeared beneath Yun Lan's feet. Yun Lan stepped on the sword and flew up, arriving before the demonic energy puppet. Yun Lan extended a hand toward the demonic puppet's head, and a beam of spiritual energy appeared in his hand, piercing into the puppet's head and wrapping around Qin Jianmei's resentment. Then Yun Lan retracted the beam of spiritual energy and pulled Qin Jianmei out of the puppet's body. "You want to kill me?" Yun Lan stared at Qin Jianmei's resentment. "Why?" "I want to kill you, but it looks like I won't be able to." Qin Jianmei's face was bitter. "I've devoted my entire life to you, but this is how I've ended up. You've caused me so much harm, so of course I have to kill you." Laughable. Yun Lan looked at Qin Jianmei disdainfully. "You harmed Yueme, so I won't forgive you. Die." Yun Lan's voice was cold, without a trace of warmth, or even a trace of sadness or disappointment. "Yun Lan, have I never existed in your heart?" Qin Jianmei asked, unwilling to give up. Yun Lan's deep eyes narrowed. "I've had many women in my life, but apart from Yueme, they're all the same to me. I thought that you'd be a little different from the others, But it looks like you're just more foolish than they are. As Yunlan spoke, the spiritual fire on his body slowly spread to the pillar of spiritual energy in his hand, and to Qin Jianmei's spiritual energy. I'm foolish and my death isn't worth pitying. All I ask is that you treat Ruoyu well. She's your blood. Before Qin Jianmei could finish speaking, she turned into ashes and vanished into nothingness. Chapter 307. Qin Jianmei's resentment was burned to ashes by Yunlan's spiritual fire, and the massive demonic energy puppet also turned to ash with Lin Yuemei's death. The surroundings finally returned to normal. Father. Yunlan stood on the blood-red sword for a long time. Worried, Yun Maxiao walked up to him and called out to him. When Yunlan heard Yun Maxiao calling him, he turned his head and looked down. When his gaze met Yun Ruoyan's, Yun Ruoyan seemed to see a trace of sadness in his eyes, but it was only for a moment. Must be an illusion, Yun Ruoyan thought. Father, are you all right? Yun Maxiao asked, concerned. Yunlan shook his head and descended on his sword. Yun Ruoyan was a little worried that Yunlan had recognized her. After all, even Qin Jianmei had recognized her, and Yunlan's eyesight was far superior to hers. Yun Ruoyan glanced at Li Mo, who could see the worry in her eyes. He shook his head at her and pulled her toward Yunlan. Right at this moment, Yunlan staggered and then he spat out a mouthful of blood. Father, what's wrong? Yun Maxiao helped his father up and Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan also stopped. I'm fine. Yunlan waved his hand, but his entire body went limp, and he collapsed into his father's arms. Father. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help calling out. Just as she was about to step forward, Li Mo pulled her back. Official Yun's fine. He's only just reached the peak of the Sword Saint realm. Because he used the Cloud Sky fruit, his foundation isn't very stable. Furthermore, he used too much spiritual energy just now, so both his spiritual vortex and his body have suffered some damage. However, Li Mo continued. Master Yun is already a Sword Saint now, so this kind of injury won't threaten his life. He'll be able to fully recover after some time. Take advantage of this time to return to the capital. Perhaps the Imperial Guards will be arriving soon, Yun Maxiao instructed Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo. Their battle this time had caused quite a commotion within the Imperial City, and it was certain that the commoners would be alarmed. Fortunately, the location Li Mo had chosen was rather remote, so the commoners weren't injured or damaged too much. Li Mo left with Yun Ruoyan and the guards. Just as Yun Maxiao and Yun Lan were about to leave, the Imperial Guards arrived. Lord Yun, General Yun, what happened? When the captain of the Imperial Guards saw the two of them in such a sorry state, he hurriedly stepped forward to inquire about their condition. Send us back to the residence of Yun first, I will explain to you later. Yun Maxiao was the general of the Imperial City, and this Imperial bodyguard was his subordinate. Thus he didn't dare ask too many questions and only nodded in agreement. There's another body here. What should we do with it? The guard captain asked as he pointed at Qin Jianmei's body. After Yun Lan returned to the manor, he lay in bed for 3 days and 3 nights before waking up. Yun Ruoyu walked out of her courtyard on the same night. The maids in her courtyard were startled to see her walking out of her room in a daze, asking her where she had gone and why she had suddenly left her room. Yun Ruoyu didn't know that she was missing at all. When she woke up from her bed, she thought that she had just slept. As soon as Yun Lan woke up, she spread the news that the Yun family's third aunt had succumbed to an illness. As for the true cause of Qin Jianmei's death, even Yun Ruoyu had no way of knowing, much less outsiders. Of course, outsiders didn't care. After all, she was just an aunt. Because she was a concubine, Qin Jianmei didn't have the right to enter the Yun family's ancestral grave. She could only find a slightly better plot of land outside and bury her in a hurry. Yun Ruoyan and Yun Maxiao didn't have to go, and only Yun Ruoyu wore mourning clothes. After the funeral, Yun Ruoyan made a special trip to Qin Jianmei's grave and burned a cloth bag in front of it. Li Mo asked Yun Ruoyan, somewhat puzzled. Shouldn't you hate her? She poisoned your mother and harmed you as well. I used to hate the person who poisoned me, and when I suspected the Qin family, I hated her as well, Yun Ruoyan sighed. But when I think of how I was severely injured on the tournament stage when I was a child, and how everyone despised me, she was the only one who saved me and guarded me for an entire night. I can't bring myself to hate her. No matter what her motives were, she gave me a sliver of hope when I was in despair. I'll remember this favor and I'll have to repay it. Yun Ruoyan watched as the cloth bag burned away, revealing the Bodhisattva and the reincarnated Buddha within. These two statues are the faith of the shamanic tribe. Let's treat it as a token of my gratitude. Yun Ruoyan left with Liemo. Not long after the two of them left, a figure appeared in front of Qin Jianmei's grave. She hurriedly squatted down and put out the fire in front of the grave with some sand. Then she took off her mourning clothes and wrapped the two statues in her arms before leaving in a hurry. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Tomorrow was the eve of the new year. Kongming Academy was on vacation and the Lin siblings had all returned home. During this time, Yun Ruoyan would go to the Lin Manor to play with the Qinchin sisters in the morning, then head to the Slaughtering King's Manor in the afternoon. At night she would return to her own rooms to rest. The Yun matriarch, who had never been very strict with her, began to restrain her after her engagement to Liemo. She even sternly told her that she couldn't spend the night at her fiancé's house before the wedding. This was not only a rule but also a sign of a woman's self-respect. Yun Ruoyan nodded obediently. Every day she would have one more task: to pay her respects to the Slaughtering King's family after returning from the Slaughtering King's manor. At first Yun Ruoyan was worried that Yun Lan would suspect her, but when she heard from her brother that Yun Lan had asked him to investigate the identity of the black-white twin demons and had even given him a list of suspects, she and Liemo weren't among them. Only then did she relax. Yun Lan didn't seem particularly concerned about Yun Ruoyan, but according to the Yun matriarch, her dowry had been prepared by Yun Lan himself, and he hadn't hired anyone else. Yun Ruoyan's feelings toward Yun Lan were extremely complicated. She had once hated and resented him, but now that she knew so much about him she couldn't bring herself to hate or resent him. She couldn't bring herself to hate or resent him, and naturally she couldn't bring herself to kiss him. But when they met she still called him father, and it wasn't as awkward as she'd expected. This must be a habit, Yun Ruoyan thought. On the eve of the new year Yun Ruoyan accompanied the Yun matriarch to keep watch, and the Yun matriarch unwittingly dozed off. Yun Ruoyan and a few of her maids sneaked out of the room and waited by the fireplace for midnight. When midnight arrived, Yun Lan and Yun Moxiao arrived together, bringing with them the firecrackers that had recently become very popular in the capital. Xiao Lan woke the Yun matriarch up, and the maids took turns kowtowing to the Yun matriarch. The Yun matriarch cheerfully handed out red envelopes to everyone. The maids beamed with joy as they received their red envelopes, and the entire room was filled with a festive atmosphere. There was only one thing that made this festive atmosphere seem a little lacking: the Yun matriarch's sudden mention of Yun Ruoyu. Ever since Qin Jianmei's death, Yun Ruoyan seemed to have changed into a completely different person. She had moved from her own courtyard to the plum-clipping cottage, and she spent most of her days in seclusion. Yun Lan, send someone to visit Ruoyu tomorrow. She's quite pitiful after losing her mother, the Yun matriarch said. Mother, I'll have someone deliver dinner to her this evening. Don't worry, mother. She'll get better with time, Yun Lan replied. That's right, grandmother. It's a festive day, so please be happy, Yun Moxiao added. I'm going to light some fireworks, grandmother. I'm sure you'll like them. No one paid much attention to Yun Ruoyan's unusual behavior, and the crowd quickly returned to the festive atmosphere. This was the first new year that Yun Ruoyan had spent in the Yun household after reincarnating. Thinking back on it, she felt as though it had been a long year, as though she had made up for all her regrets from her past life. But as the scenes flashed through her mind, Yun Ruoyan felt as though the year had passed so quickly that she didn't have time to think about it. Danger after danger, challenge after challenge. All she did was bravely accept them, resist them, and not slack off in the slightest. When everything was over and she looked back, those dangers and challenges were nothing more than rocks in the river. She had stepped on them and crossed the turbulent river. Apart from her various gains and improvements, Yun Ruoyan felt that the most important thing was that she had gained the courage to face everything, as well as the self-awareness that she needed to strengthen herself even when she had a man to rely on. Bang bang bang. A series of fireworks exploded in the air, and the colorful fireworks illuminated the sky with colorful colors. Just like that, Yun Ruoyan's first year of life had passed, and a future filled with challenges and unknowns lay before her. After the end of the night watch, everyone returned to their own courtyards. Because Yun Ruoyan was in a relaxed mood, she allowed her exhaustion to overwhelm her. Along the way she called out sleepy, sleepy, sleepy and then closed her eyes. Xilan and Peony each took one of her arms and carried her to her bed. They carefully wiped her hands and face, took off her outer robes and covered her with a blanket. Only then did the two maidservants blow out the lamp and quietly close the door. As soon as the door closed, the back window opened soundlessly, and Li Mo floated into the room. In the past, Yun Ruian would have woken up by now, but today she only flipped over on the bed, kicked off the blanket and continued to sleep. Li Mo smirked, took off his outer robes and lay down by Yun Ruian's side. Only then did Yun Ruian sense that someone had arrived, but the familiar scent told her who it was. Without opening her eyes, she snuggled into Li Mo's embrace like an obedient little animal. "Why are you here at this hour?" Yun Ruian murmured. "It's the eve of the new year and I didn't want to spend it alone," Li Mo replied. Yun Ruian could feel the coolness of Li Mo's body, and she knew that he must have been waiting outside the window all morning, only entering the room when she returned. Yun Ruian couldn't help but feel sorry for him. She reached out and hugged Li Mo's waist tightly. "Li Mo, I'll spend the rest of the year with you, all right?" Chapter 308. Time flew by and soon the 29th day of the third month of the lunar calendar was Yun Ruian's birthday, as well as her coming of age. In the Li Kingdom, coming of age was extremely important to a girl, as it signified that she had reached adulthood and was ready for marriage. In large families, the importance of a girl's marriage was no less than that of a man's coronation ceremony. Furthermore, because Yun Ruian was the first daughter of the Yun family, a student of Kongming Academy, and the slaughtering king's fiancée, her coming-of-age ceremony was even more extravagant. "Sister Run, this dress is so gorgeous." Lin Qingshua's eyes widened as she stared at Yun Ruian's fiery red dress. The hem of the dress was embroidered with golden silk with phoenix flowers, so gorgeous that it was almost blinding. Her red outer robe had no collar, revealing Yun Ruian's slender neck. Because she had been resting regularly and eating well during this period of time, Yun Ruian had grown much taller, and her figure had also become much more well-rounded. Although she had just turned 15, she already looked like a 17-year-old girl. Coupled with the fiery red formal attire, she looked more mature and bright than ever before. "That's right, Sister Run, you look like a completely different person in this dress," Lin Qingchen chimed in. Lin Qingchen and Lin Qingxue had arrived early in the morning in Yun Ruian's cottage. They were going to be serving as Yun Ruian's maids, so even though they didn't usually wear formal clothes, they were dressed rather formally today. "Don't I look good?" Yun Ruian stood up and twirled in a circle. The phoenix flowers embroidered with golden silk fluttered in the air, glowing brightly when they came into contact with the sunlight outside the door. "Of course I look good." Lin Qingchen and Lin Qingxue hurriedly added in unison, "It just feels different from before." "Different how?" Yun Ruian frowned as she looked at herself in the mirror. In fact, even she herself felt that she was different from before. In the past she had also worn a similar fiery red dress. In both her past and present life, she had worn all sorts of formal attire when attending important events. However, when she looked at herself in the mirror today, she also felt that the woman in the mirror was different from before. As for what exactly was different, she couldn't quite put her finger on it. "Our young miss has grown up." Peony smiled, a look of pride in her eyes. "Our young miss is no longer a little girl. She's a woman now." Peony's words made everyone realize that Yun Ruian had unwittingly transformed from a young girl into a woman. Because Yun Ruian had been born at noon, the auspicious time for her coming of age was also set at noon. Just after breakfast time, both sides of the road outside the residence of Yun were filled with carriages and guests from all walks of life. The liveliness was no less than that of the Yun matriarch's birthday. "I heard that the eldest daughter of the Yun family will marry the slaughtering king as his consort soon after she reaches the age of 15. Is that true?" Two guests in the queue whispered to each other. "Yeah, I heard about it too. It's said that the wedding date has been set. It's in 3 days. Why do you think they're in such a hurry?" Another guest in front of them heard the conversation and interrupted, "You probably don't know about this, but they're going to participate in some sort of training at Kongming Academy, and after that they'll be sent to a more dangerous place for training. When will they be back?" "Kongming Academy's training?" The two people behind him immediately became interested. They craned their necks and asked, "What collective training?" What trial? How did you know where to go for the trial? The man looked around nervously. This is an internal arrangement of Kongming Academy and most people don't know about it. However, my young miss is also participating in this training, and I only found out about it after overhearing her conversation with my master. My young master is training hard in the manor every day, and my master is collecting treasures to prepare for him. The two of them didn't even have time to attend Miss Yun's coming-of-age ceremony this year, which is why I'm here to give her a gift. Oh, I recognize you. One of the two guests pointed at the man in front of him. You must be Master Pei's second butler. This man was Pei Yingxiong's second butler, and the young master he was referring to was none other than Pei Zio. No wonder you know so much. You're the butler of the Pei family. The two guests exclaimed in realization. Let me tell you. Seeing that someone had recognized him, the second butler of the Pei manor grew even more excited. He leaned in front of the two guests and whispered, You must not know this, but the Slaughtering King is one of the most powerful instructors in Kongming Academy, and Miss Yun is his only official disciple. What? The two people behind him widened their eyes and said in shock, Then how could they still have an engagement? Isn't that the case? That's right. A teacher is like a father and this will be punished by the heavens. The second butler laughed. My master said the same thing, so even if he wasn't busy he wouldn't have come here. Is what you're saying true? Are they really master and disciple? Quite a few people who had overheard their conversation also came over to ask. It's my turn. The second butler didn't dare to make a big deal out of this, so he quickly changed the topic and went back to line up. However, his words quickly spread through the crowd. Miss Yun was about to be married to the Slaughtering King, but the two of them were still master and disciple. Soon a wedding would be held in the imperial city and so on and so forth. Because there were so many guests, the main entrance was reserved for the less important ones, while the more important ones would naturally enter through a small door at the side. For example, Yunlan's friends in the court, the princes and the young ladies of the larger clans who had come to join in the fun. Congratulations, Master Yun, the Yun family has a daughter who has matured. An official of similar rank as Yunlan stepped forward to congratulate him. She can be betrothed once she reaches the age of 15. The official smiled politely at Yunlan. I wonder if Miss Yun is already betrothed? I would like to make a request on behalf of my son. Yunlan smiled sheepishly. Lord Lu, my daughter is already betrothed and the wedding will be held soon. I hope that Lord Lu will attend the wedding. Lord Lu was obviously shocked and said, Your daughter is already married. How come you didn't hear anything about such a big matter? Who is she betrothed to? Because my daughter's schedule has been rather rushed ever since she returned from Kongming Academy. The engagement hasn't been held with much fanfare. Today I'm taking this opportunity to announce the wedding to everyone, Yunlan explained. Actually, Li Mo had been very concerned about the wedding at first, and he had wanted it to be a grand affair. However, Yun Ruoyan didn't want such a grand affair, as she felt that it was already too eye-catching. As a result, Li Mo agreed to her request. Yun Ruoyan's idea was that the wedding wouldn't even be grand, but this idea was immediately rejected by Yunlan and Li Mo. The wedding could be kept small because both Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo were too well known in the capital, and it would be better to keep a low profile. On the other hand, the marriage was an important event that had to be announced to the world. As the auspicious hour approached, all the important guests were seated in the great hall of the Yun Manor, while the rest of the crowd gathered outside. The Yun matriarch sat at the head of the hall, dressed in formal attire. She was the most senior member of the Yun family, and she was the one who would tie Yun Ruoyan's hair. Yunlan sat to the right of the Yun matriarch. As Yun Ruoyan's father, he had to accept Yun Ruoyan's thanks. Li Mo sat to the right of Yunlan. He was the most distinguished guest of the day, and Li Qianhan sat to his side. The crown prince Li Qianxiao and the second prince Li Qianyuan sat opposite him. The auspicious hour has arrived and the ceremony shall begin. As soon as the announcer began, all the chatter in the great hall died down. Supported by the Lin sisters, Yun Ruoyan entered the main hall from the back of the hall. Her dazzling red figure immediately attracted everyone's attention. Li Mo's dark eyes were full of mirth, and he didn't even try to hide his smile as he looked at Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan felt Li Mo's gaze and mischievously raised her chin at him, but her eyes were also full of mirth. The crown prince Li Qianhan craned his neck and stared at Yun Ruoyan, and the second prince Li Qianyuan narrowed his eyes slightly. Every time Yun Ruoyan appeared, she seemed to be different from the last, and every time she appeared, they would be surprised by her transformation. She was like a magical flower, able to bloom into a different, dazzling flower each time. Warriors in position, start the ceremony. As Yun Ruoyan walked into the center of the great hall, the announcer continued, the young kneel and the elderly wash their hands. At this time, two dignified maids, one holding a prayer mat in front of Yun Ruoyan, and the other holding a golden basin, walked up to the Yun matriarch. The Yun matriarch placed her hands into the basin. Kneel to the heavens and pray for the blessings of the gods, the announcer announced. The Lin sisters retreated to the sides, and Yun Ruoyan knelt down on the prayer mat toward the outside of the great hall, bowing 3 times. Kneel to the guests and pray for the blessings of friends and family. Yun Ruoyan bowed to the surrounding guests 3 more times. Kneel to my parents and elders 3 times, and pray for the health of my parents and elders. Finally, Yun Ruoyan kowtowed to her father and the Yun matriarch. Now that the kneeling ceremony is complete, let's begin. Yun Ruoyan straightened her back on the prayer mat, and the Yun matriarch stood up after washing her hands. The Lin sisters helped the Yun matriarch to Yun Ruoyan's side. At this time, another maid came forward, holding a golden jade box in her hands. Lin Qingshan opened the box and handed it to the Yun matriarch. The Yun matriarch reached into the box and took out a golden phoenix hairpin, slowly inserting it into Lin Qingshan's unadorned black hair. The ceremony of ascension is complete, the announcer announced. Chapter 309. Lin Qingshan and Lin Qingxue helped Yun Ruoyan up, and she bowed to the guests once more, thanking them for coming to witness her wedding. The guests all offered their own words of praise. Thank you everyone for coming to witness my daughter's wedding today. Yun Lan stood up from his seat. I'd like to take this opportunity to announce to everyone that my daughter has been betrothed to the slaughtering king, and the wedding date is set for 3 days from now. I hope that everyone will honor us with their presence then. Among the guests, only a few had heard the news, so most of them were surprised. First, they were shocked that Yun Ruoyan was going to marry the slaughtering king, Li Mo, and second, they were shocked that the wedding would be so rushed. However, because of Li Mo's presence, they only dared to whisper. It looks like the Pei Manor's steward was right. There must be some sort of grudge between the slaughtering king and Miss Yun, or they wouldn't have held the wedding so hastily. The 2 men from before began to whisper again. I think so too, another man agreed. Such a reckless act would be punished by the heavens. I'm not going to attend such a wedding. When the people around them heard their discussion, they began to whisper to each other. Even those who didn't ask questions perked up their ears. Yun Ruoyan, Li Mo, and Yun Lan all had spiritual energy, so even though the guest voices were soft, they could still hear them. The 3 of them knew what was going on, so they didn't mind it too much. All they wanted was for the wedding to end as quickly as possible and send everyone out of the Yun manor. Unlike other weddings, there weren't any banquets for guests. As a result, Yun Lan said, my daughter's wedding is over, so I won't take up any more of your time. Please return to your rooms and I'll have a toast with all of you in 3 days. Just as the crowd was about to leave, however, a burst of laughter could be heard from outside the main hall. Official Yun, why didn't you inform me of your daughter's wedding? Rong Tianling and Rong Yueshun walked in. The feud between the Rong and Yun families had been going on for a long time, and Rong Tianling and Yun Lan had been constantly at odds with each other. Thus, when Rong Tianling arrived, the expressions on everyone's faces changed. Some were looking forward to a good show while others looked worried. I've heard that the slaughtering king's disciple is attending his coming-of-age ceremony today, so even though I didn't receive an invitation, I've come all the way here, Rong Tianling continued, bowing deeply to Li Mo. The slaughtering king's disciple is coming of age today? Isn't that Miss Yun? Rong Tianling's words caused the crowd to clamor even louder. Looks like the rumors are true. Miss Yun and the slaughtering king really do have a master-disciple relationship. So can a master and disciple get married? Rong Tianling had come to make things difficult for Yun Lan by pretending not to know anything. He couldn't take advantage of Yun Lan in court, so he came up with this plan to vent his frustrations. Imperial Uncle Rong, today is my daughter's wedding day. I hope you won't cause any trouble. Yun Lan coldly said to him. Rong Tianling, however, looked confused. Looking for trouble? What trouble is this uncle looking for? I don't understand what you're saying, Master Yun. Yun Lan's expression was as cold as his voice. Yun Ruoyan was supposed to leave as soon as she reached her marriageable age, but she had been blocked by Rong Tianling in the main hall. Li Qianxiao and Li Qianyuan were aware of Yun Lan's relationship with Yun Ruoyan, so when Yun Lan announced their engagement, the two of them immediately thought of their relationship. However, both of them quickly suppressed this thought. After a few twists and turns, Li Qianxiao's opinion of Yun Ruoyan had finally changed to one of intense love and admiration. But in front of Li Mo, he had no choice but to suppress his feelings. Although Li Qianyuan's feelings for Yun Ruoyan couldn't be considered adoration, he was still a little disappointed to learn that she was going to marry Li Mo. But of course he wouldn't offend the slaughtering king just because he was a little disappointed. As a result, Li Qianxiao and Li Qianhan couldn't help but feel excited and expectant when Rong Tianling's appearance broke the veil between them. Let's see how you're going to carry on with the wedding under the watchful eyes of the public. With this mentality, the two of them who had already stood up sat back down. Ah, slaughtering king, you have to stand up for me. Rong Tianling looked at Li Mo with an aggrieved expression. I'm here to celebrate your disciple's wedding day, and why is official Yun saying that I'm here to cause trouble? Tell me what's going on here. When the crowd saw that Rong Tianling had the gall to provoke the slaughtering king, they couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. Li Mo, however, didn't seem to mind at all. He sat back in his seat, a faint smile on his face. His smile wasn't as cold as it had been before but strangely warm. In the face of Li Mo's smile, Rong Tianling, who had been feigning ignorance, began to feel a little guilty. Slaughtering king, aren't you going to say something fair for me? Rong Tianling continued. Just as he finished speaking, another voice came from outside the door. This time it was a little shrill, as if a man were speaking with his throat pinched. However, the crowd immediately recognized the man's identity, and they parted to make way for him. The imperial edict has arrived. That shrill voice continued until the person entered the room. Apart from the Yun matriarch and Li Mo, everyone else in the hall knelt down in a hubbub. The eunuch swept his gaze across the crowd, cleared his throat and began reading the edict in his hands. Yun Ruoyan, daughter of the Yun family, is dignified, modest, courteous, intelligent, gentle and virtuous. Now that she has reached the marriageable age, I hereby bestow her hand in marriage to my brother, the slaughtering king Li Mo, as the slaughtering king's consort. 3 days from now will be an auspicious day for the wedding. After reading the edict, the eunuch cleared his throat again. Official Yun, please accept the edict and thank the emperor for his grace. Yun Lan received the imperial edict and thanked the emperor 3 times. Everyone followed suit and shouted, "Long live the emperor." The eunuch continued. His Majesty has decreed that 3 days is indeed a little too short, so there's no need for a grand wedding. However, I'll be there to witness the wedding, so there's no need to be half-hearted. Yun Lan accepts the imperial edict. Yun Lan bowed and received the imperial edict. Everyone disperse. Time is of the essence, so let's not delay official Yun's wedding preparations any longer, the eunuch said to the crowd. Only then did the crowd react and nod in agreement. Imperial Uncle Rong, His Majesty has prepared a table of food and wine in the palace for you to drink together. Please follow us into the palace. Uncle Rong hesitated for a moment, but he had no choice but to leave with his tail between his legs. Since the emperor of a kingdom had issued an imperial edict to bestow marriage, then the so-called marriage was no longer valid. In private, there was a saying that a teacher for a day was a father for life, but a teacher wasn't a father. As for the fact that a teacher couldn't marry his disciple, it was only an unwritten rule that had been broken by the emperor's decree. As long as both parties were in love with each other, even a teacher and a disciple could marry. As a result, 3 days later, Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan's wedding was officially held. Although 3 days was short, the wedding was even grander than Yun Ruoyan had expected. Because the emperor was personally presiding over the ceremony, the imperial guards of honor alone took up half a street, making it nearly impossible to keep a low profile. On this day, Yun Ruoyan was woken up just as the sun was rising. 5 maidservants circled around her for more than 4 hours before she was properly dressed. The Lin sisters, as well as the other young misses of the large families who had come to congratulate Yun Ruoyan, were all stunned into silence when they saw Yun Ruoyan in her bright red wedding dress. There were no words that could describe the beauty of the woman in front of them. In that moment, many of the noblewomen even forgot about their jealousy and hatred. All they could see was admiration and yearning for Yun Ruoyan's beauty. Only when the auspicious hour arrived and Yun Ruoyan left, supported by the Lin sisters, did the noblewomen realize what had happened. I heard that Miss Yun had a birthmark on her face, but why doesn't she have one? She's so clean and pretty. One of the noblewomen who had seen Yun Ruoyan for the first time asked. She really does have a birthmark on her face. I saw it at last year's flower viewing party and it was frightening. Why is it gone now? This person doesn't seem like the same person I saw at last year's flower viewing party, but they're clearly the same person. Tell me, how could a person change so much in a year's time? Another noblewoman who had seen Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. You don't know, do you? Another noblewoman seemed to know a lot. I heard that the slaughtering king knows how to refine a kind of beauty cream. Miss Yun's birthmark has already been healed, but there's still a little mark left. I'm sure she used some powder to cover it up, or else why would her face be so fair and tender? That's a powder that the slaughtering king specially refined for Miss Yun. Really? When the noblewomen heard this, they all began to see stars. What kind of beauty cream is that? I want it too. And that powder. By the end of the day, Yun Ruoyan felt as though she had become a puppet without the ability to think or move. She was wearing heavy wedding clothes, a heavy phoenix coronet, and a red veil on her head, completely blocking the view in front of her. When she lowered her head, she could only see the tips of her feet, and every step she took required the support of others. It was even more tiring than cultivating for 3 days and 3 nights straight. Li Mo could clearly see her fatigue and impatience. As the couple bowed to each other, he leaned close to her ear and whispered, "You've worked hard today, my little consort." Husband and wife bowed to each other and entered the bridal chamber. The officiator announced and the guests began to cheer. Amidst their cheers, Yun Ruoyan could faintly hear Li Mo's laughter. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but blush under the red veil. Finally, they were going to enter the bridal chamber. Chapter 310. Yun Ruoyan was sent to the bridal chamber, which was in Li Mo's room. Yun Ruoyan wasn't unfamiliar with the surroundings, and her nervousness was alleviated quite a bit. After the Lin sisters sent Yun Ruoyan to the bridal chamber, they chatted with her for a while before leaving, giggling happily. She sat alone on the bright red wedding bed. She hadn't eaten for an entire day and her stomach began to rumble. Yun Ruoyan endured it for a while longer, but Li Mo still hadn't arrived. Smelling the few plates of wedding cakes on the table, she finally couldn't hold back her hunger and lifted the veil. But as soon as the veil was lifted, a woman's voice rang out. "Oh my, the bride can't lift the veil yourself." It was the matron of honor who had nagged at Yun Ruoyan countless times throughout the day. Ever since Yun Ruoyan had stepped out of the Yun manor, the matron of honor had been nagging her incessantly. She couldn't do this, couldn't do that, and had to be careful of this and that. As soon as Yun Ruoyan heard her voice, she reflexively put the veil back on and sat down obediently, returning to her doll form. That's what a bride should be like. The matron of honor laughed. She was quite satisfied with Yun Ruoyan's performance that day. She had followed her instructions strictly, and she hadn't made a single mistake. "Where's His Highness? When will he arrive?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "Looks like the bride can't wait any longer," the matron of honor replied. "But newlyweds should be a little more reserved." Yun Ruoyan could only acquiesce. She couldn't say that she was too hungry and was waiting for His Highness to arrive. After a while, someone finally arrived. It wasn't Li Mo but Li Luo. Li Luo sent the matron of honor away before removing Yun Ruoyan's veil. When Yun Ruoyan saw Li Luo, it was as if she had seen her savior. "Sister Li Luo, hurry up and give me something to eat. I haven't eaten all day and I'm so hungry." Yun Ruoyan was on the verge of tears. In order to look presentable, Peony and Shilon had been putting her on a diet for the past few days. Yun Ruoyan, who hadn't seen any meat in days, had been starving for an entire day. The feeling in her stomach was indescribable. When Li Luo saw Yun Ruoyan, she paused for a moment. Even a woman like her couldn't help but be moved by her pitiful expression. But only a girl like Yun Ruoyan is worthy of His Highness, Li Luo thought to herself. "His Highness knew that you would be hungry, so he asked me to bring you some food." Li Luo took out some of Yun Ruoyan's favorite snacks from the food box she'd brought with her. His Highness said that it's best not to eat meat tonight, and that you should eat something light to fill your stomach. He might arrive a little later. Has His Majesty not left yet? Yun Ruoyan looked at the plates of delicacies Li Luo had brought out, as well as a bowl of lotus seed porridge. They were far more adorable than the wedding cakes on the table, and she began to eat them. His Majesty left early in the morning, Li Luo replied. But His Highness was stopped by your brother. As it turned out, Yun Maxiao had drunk so much at home that he'd taken advantage of his intoxication to come to the slaughtering king's manor. As soon as Yun Maxiao saw Li Mo, he refused to let go. He kept saying that he was Li Mo's brother-in-law, and that Li Mo had to accompany him properly before entering the manor. The officials who had only come to put on a show of force but didn't dare to act rashly began to drink with Li Mo as well. Li Mo was truly in a good mood today, and he knew how important Yun Maxiao was to Yun Ruoyan. As such, he really had to accompany his brother-in-law well. As a result, the two of them began to drink, one after another, amidst the clamor of the crowd. By the end, Yun Maxiao was so drunk that he stopped calling him His Highness. Instead, he kept saying, Li Mo, if you dare mistreat my sister, I'll raze your manor to the ground. As soon as he said this, all of the officials were so frightened that they didn't dare to make any more noise. They all excused themselves, and the slaughtering king's manor was finally a little quieter. Li Luo, personally escort him back, Li Mo instructed. Yes, your highness, Li Luo replied. A few servants escorted Yun Maxiao to his carriage, and Li Luo stood guard by his side while the coachman drove the carriage back to the Yun manor. As the carriage swayed, Yun Maxiao opened his eyes and saw Li Luo. She was hugging her knees as she sat quietly by his side. Yun Maxiao didn't know why, but when he looked at Li Luo's profile, he felt a faint sense of sadness. Li Luo, Yun Maxiao called out. Li Luo turned to look at Yun Maxiao, only to see that his eyes were sparkling like stars, as if he had countless things to say to her. My sister is already married, so I have to get married too. Will you marry me? Yun Maxiao finally said what was on his mind under the influence of the alcohol. But as soon as he said this, a wave of alcohol rushed to his head, and Yun Maxiao's head grew heavy again. Li Luo, I'm serious. If you agree, you have to tell me tomorrow. As soon as Yun Maxiao finished speaking, he fell back into a deep slumber. Yun Ruoyan was thirsty. She saw 2 white jade jars on the table, so she picked one up and poured it into a cup. Because of her experience in her past life, she knew that there would be some sort of marriage wine in the bridal chamber. Yun Ruoyan smelled that the liquid in the cup was fragrant, without a trace of alcohol or the characteristic sweetness of the marriage wine. As a result, Yun Ruoyan began to drink it without worry. The liquid was refreshing, and while waiting for Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan drank cup after cup of it. Before she knew it, she'd finished the contents of the 2 jade flasks. Creak. The door opened, and Li Mo, who had changed into a new set of clothes and taken a shower, walked in with his slightly damp hair. Yun Ruoyan raised her head to look at Li Mo before finishing the last of the liquid in her cup. Li Mo, you're finally here. Yun Ruoyan stood up and walked toward Li Mo with a smile. The phoenix coronet on her head and the complicated wedding dress she wore made her look a little clumsy, but it didn't hinder her beauty. Li Mo took a step forward and hugged Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan looked up at him and smiled. Her eyes were misty, but she couldn't hide the lust in them. Li Mo, why do you smell so good? Yun Ruoyan leaned against Li Mo's chest and sniffed. Why didn't you smell so good before? Yan Li Mo casually picked up the white jade flagon from the table and shook it, only to find that both were empty. Did you drink all of this wine? Yun Ruoyan smiled and looked up at the jars in Li Mo's hands. Yes, Li Luo brought me some snacks, so I drank them when I was thirsty, and then I drank them again when I got bored waiting for you. What's in there? It's delicious, huh? Uncle, this is my newly brewed blissful wine. Not only does it taste better than the average, but I've also improved its effects. Li Mo thought back to what Li Qianhan had said to him a few days ago. He remembered that he was too lazy to pay attention to that brat at that time, but he didn't expect that he would silently send this wine into his bridal chamber, and it was 2 bottles at once. Yun Ruoyan's face slowly turned red. Only now did she realize that there was something wrong with the liquid she had just drunk. Li Mo, what's in that jars? Why do I want more after drinking it? Li Mo's eyes began to redden. As Yun Ruoyan spoke, Her hands began to roam all over his body, and she couldn't help but stand on her tiptoes to kiss his lips. Li Mo's lips were cold but Yun Ruoyan's were hot. It's something that won't hurt. Li Mo lifted Yun Ruoyan into his arms. As he carried Yun Ruoyan, he removed the bits and pieces of her hair and the bright red wedding robe she was wearing. Layer by layer it was very troublesome. Because he was anxious and unwilling to hurt Yun Ruoyan, Li Mo seemed a little flustered. It's so troublesome to dress so neatly. Li Mo panted slightly. As soon as he finished speaking, Yun Ruoyan heard the sound of tearing silk. Li Mo had torn the fabric between Yun Ruoyan's gown and inner robe, revealing a red tutu embroidered with a mandarin duck frolicking in the water. Yen. As Li Mo murmured, the red veil fluttered down, covering the entire room. Yun Ruoyan felt as though she had sunk into a pool of warm seawater, a pleasant sensation spreading from the inside out. Wave after wave of pleasure washed over her body, as though there was no end to it, as though she would be drowned in it. Yun Ruoyan suddenly felt a little afraid that she would drown in this sea of pleasure. As a result, she struggled to open her eyes. As soon as she did, she saw Li Mo, who was only a few feet away from her, and she could feel the two of them even more clearly. However, Li Mo's eyes were closed and he was frowning slightly, so Yun Ruoyan couldn't tell what he was feeling. Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan called out softly. When Li Mo heard her voice, he opened his eyes slightly, and an icy blue light poured out of them without warning. Yun Ruoyan's face was covered in a layer of icy blue light. In front of Yun Ruoyan's eyes, Li Mo began to transform. His ink-black hair gradually became silvery white, and his eyebrows also became silvery white. His long and narrow eyes became even deeper, and the bridge of his nose was still as tall as before. His thin lips, however, were so red that it seemed as if they were about to drip blood. Yen Li Mo called out softly, "Don't be afraid." Yun Ruoyan shook her head. This wasn't the first time she had seen Li Mo in his true form. However, this time she could clearly feel the entire process of Li Mo's transformation. Yun Ruoyan was naturally shocked, but she was even more shocked by his beauty. How could there be such a beautiful man in this world? Chapter 311. Just like that, Yun Ruoyan fell into a deep sleep in Li Mo's arms. Her brows were furrowed, and her face was as beautiful as a lotus flower. Her lips were slightly swollen, but there was a faint smile on her lips. Li Mo planted a kiss on Yun Ruoyan's forehead, then gently removed his arm from her neck and got off the bed. Li Mo put on his outer robe and walked out of the room. He raised his hands and white spiritual power gradually appeared on his hands. Then, the white spiritual power on both of his hands began to change at the same time. One hand was covered with red flames and the other hand was covered with frost. "I've finally broken through." Li Mo clenched his fists tightly. He had finally broken through from peak 9th rank to the peak of the Sword Saint realm. Once he became a Sword Saint, he would be able to release his spiritual energy directly from his body in the form of elemental energy, and his elemental energy would be twice as strong as before. Yun Ruoyan's human furnace was indeed a great boon to his cultivation. "Sun Mo," Qiuqiu's voice suddenly rang out in Li Mo's mind. Li Mo retracted his hands and returned to the room. He looked at Yun Ruoyan, who was still lying on the bed. The silver bracelet on her wrist was glowing faintly. "Qiuqiu, it seems like you've recovered well?" Li Mo asked Qiuqiu through his mental energy. In the past, if Li Mo wanted to talk to Qiuqiu, he would have to use his mental energy to break through the barrier. This time, however, Qiuqiu was able to break through the barrier herself. "Mistress, I've been greatly helped by the Amaranthan sun," Qiuqiu replied. "Now that she's become an 8th rank blade master, she'll be of great help to me as well. Once she reaches the peak of the Sword Saint realm, I'll probably be able to break through the barrier and return to my original form. With Yenra's talent and my help, she'll be able to reach the peak of the Sword Saint realm in less than 10 years. So Qiuqiu, don't worry." "Li Mo, that's not why I'm talking to you," Qiuqiu began. Qiuqiu said, "I was just immersed in cultivation when I suddenly felt a huge fluctuation of spiritual energy in Master's body. Although this fluctuation won't harm her, I still find it very strange. Can you tell me why?" Qiuqiu was certain that Yun Ruoyan's spiritual fluctuations were due to Li Mo, but it didn't know the exact reason. As for Li Mo, he felt that there was no longer a need to hide it from Yun Ruoyan. He wanted to find an opportunity to tell her about it, but he seemed to be lacking a suitable opportunity. Just like tonight, Li Mo had wanted very much to tell Yun Ruoyan about this matter before he fully possessed her. However, Yun Ruoyan had mistakenly drunk the marriage wine, and Li Mo didn't have a chance to do so. "Qiu, I can tell you the reason, but don't tell your master right now." "I want to tell her myself," Li Mo said. Qiu agreed, and Li Mo told Qiu about Yun Ruoyan's human furnace. "I see," Qiu said. "I know what you're worried about. Although your intentions weren't pure at first, you're deeply in love with Master now, and Master can feel it. But with Master's personality, it's best if you confess to her as soon as possible to prevent any unforeseen events in the future." Li Mo nodded silently. He was determined to tell Yun Ruoyan about this matter before they left for the other dimension. Li Mo had originally planned to tell Yun Ruoyan about this the very next day, but early the next morning he received a notification from the First Elder. The First Elder had informed Li Mo of something that was both surprising and exciting. After all, there weren't many things on the Qinyuan continent that could excite Li Mo. Li Mo told Yun Ruoyan about this matter, which Yun Ruoyan had heard from the other students of Kongming Academy about the sudden disappearance of the Beast Taming Hall. 3 years ago, Kongming Academy didn't have 3 halls and 5 colleges, but 4 halls and 5 colleges. One day, however, the elders discovered a new dimension through the all-seeing mirror, and this dimension was filled with a large number of magical beasts. To the Beast Taming Hall, this place was not only a good place for training, but also for treasure hunting. As a result, the executor of the Beast Taming Hall, with the approval of the elders, led his students and a few instructors into that nameless dimension. But at that moment something strange happened. As soon as they entered the dimension, the connection between the dimension and the all-seeing mirror was suddenly severed. Just like that, the executor, instructors, and a large number of students of the Beast Taming Hall disappeared soundlessly into the vast expanse of the dimension. Now that the First Elder had reported that the dimension had reappeared, and Kongming Academy was preparing to send people into it, the First Elder asked Li Mo if he was interested in taking a look. "The executor of the Beast Taming Hall is quite close to me," Li Mo replied. "In the past 3 years Master and I have been searching for it with the all-seeing mirror, and now that we've finally found it, I have to go in and take a look." "All right, I'll go with you," Yun Ruoyan replied without hesitation. She had been quite curious when she'd heard her students talk about it, but she hadn't expected that she would have the opportunity to see it for herself. Now that Li Mo was a sword saint, he was confident that he would be able to escape unscathed even from a different dimension, much less from this one. But this time, won't the dimension disappear again? Yun Ruoyan was still a little worried. "They were too hasty last time," Li Mo replied. "This time we have to be fully prepared." Because of the urgency of the situation, Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan hurried back to Kongming Academy on the second day of their wedding, before the holidays had even ended. Before returning, Yun Ruoyan had her brother Mo Xiao head to Wu City to help the far-sighted king, Li Xing, eradicate the evildoers by his side. Yun Ruoyan had promised Li Xing that she would return in a month, but a month had passed in the blink of an eye. Since Yun Ruoyan couldn't make the trip herself, she could only entrust the task to her brother. "All right, but I have a request," Yun Mo Xiao suddenly said. This surprised Yun Ruoyan a little. Ever since she was a child, this brother of hers had never made any requests of her. Yun Ruoyan smiled. "Brother, what request do you have? Let me hear it." As a result, Yun Mo Xiao recounted to Yun Ruoyan how he had proposed to Li Luo in the carriage that night. Ever since that night, Li Luo had been avoiding him, so Yun Mo Xiao's request was for Li Luo to accompany him. This wasn't a difficult task for Yun Ruoyan. After all, Li Luo had always obeyed Li Mo's orders without hesitation. When she returned to Wu City, she informed Li Mo of the matter, and he immediately issued an order to Li Luo. However, Li Luo had a request. She wanted Su Nan to go with her. Otherwise, she wouldn't go even if she disobeyed orders. Yun Ruoyan had no choice but to have Li Mo agree. After all, it was difficult for an outsider to interfere in a relationship between a man and a woman, and Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but worry for her brother. After making all the necessary arrangements, Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo flew toward the Kongming Mountains. Li Mo, slow down. Wait for me." Yun Ruoyan followed closely behind Li Mo. Although she'd been practicing flying on her sword all this time, Her sense of balance was far from perfect despite her impeccable talent. Li Mo had said that, given her cultivation speed, she would be able to fly on her sword in less than 10 days. But in the blink of an eye, almost a month had passed, and she was still only able to stand unsteadily on the Scarlet Eye sword. If Li Mo were by her side she would be fine, but if he were even a little further away from her, Yun Ruoyan would tremble all over. You can't be too slow. Li Mo purposely distanced himself from Yun Ruoyan. The slower you go, the harder it is to maintain balance. That's why there's a saying that beginners have to ride fast. It's not a question of whether I'm a beginner or a veteran, Yun Ruoyan replied bitterly. The problem is that I'm afraid of heights. Li Mo's face darkened. He had flown with Yun Ruoyan so many times that he didn't know that she was afraid of heights. Forget it, come on up. Li Mo was finally defeated by Yun Ruoyan. He reached out to Yun Ruoyan, took her hand and pulled her into his embrace. As a result, the two of them immediately sped up, and by noon, they arrived at Kongming Academy. The two of them flew directly to the top floor of the southern tower, where the first elder was waiting for them. Take a look. The three of them did not exchange any pleasantries. The great elder immediately opened the all-seeing mirror for the two of them to see. In the all-seeing mirror, Yun Ruoyan could only see a lush green landscape with blue skies and white clouds, lush trees and birds flying by. It was as if she were in a paradise. First elder, is this the dimension that disappeared? Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. Yes, it's here, the first elder confirmed. The first elder waved a hand at the all-seeing mirror, and the image of a valley appeared. There were many magical beasts in the valley, some of which Yun Ruoyan recognized, while others she didn't. The sheer number of beasts left Yun Ruoyan speechless. Master, have you found any traces of Master Qin and the others? Li Mo asked the first elder. The first elder shook his head. No, but this dimension is very large and there are many places that I haven't explored yet. There are also some places that seem to be protected by a barrier that even the all-seeing mirror can't penetrate. As such, I'll have to send someone in personally to investigate. First elder, I'll go with Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan replied. When do you plan to leave and what preparations do I need to make before leaving? Chapter 3:12. She was worried that the space would suddenly disappear if she entered just like that. As a result, Yun Ruoyan asked the first elder and Li Mo what preparations they needed to make before entering the nameless dimension. The first elder said that he was currently attempting to make a higher-grade teleportation scroll, and that he was almost done with it. Such a scroll would allow the two of them to return to the nameless dimension in an instant in case of an emergency. However, making such a scroll was extremely taxing on one's spiritual energy and required the support of a formation. As a result, apart from the first elder, Yun Ruoyan also needed a sword saint to assist him. Of the remaining 4 elders, 2 were in seclusion, and 1 had yet to return from his travels. At the moment, only the second elder was at Kongming Academy. Just as the first elder was about to invite him, Li Mo spoke up. Master, let me help you. Both the first elder and Yun Ruoyan looked toward Li Mo, who raised his hands in front of them. One of his arms was glowing with a red flame, while the other was glowing with a blue ice crystal. Li Mo, you've broken through to the Sword Saint realm? The first elder asked excitedly. Yun Ruoyan's face lit up. She knew that Li Mo's cultivation had been stuck at 9th rank for a long time, and she was naturally delighted that he had managed to break through. Li Mo, when did you break through? I think you hadn't even broken through when you were dealing with Madame Qin at the tea house, right? Yun Ruoyan blurted out excitedly. I made the breakthrough last night, Li Mo said, not hiding anything. I broke through last night. When did you break through last night? Yun Ruoyan was confused. They had spent the entire night together, so why didn't she know when Li Mo had broken through? Could it be that he had broken through? Yun Ruoyan's eyes widened as she stared at Li Mo, who smiled and nodded. After Yun Ruoyan recovered from her shock, she immediately blushed, glanced at the first elder and hurriedly changed the topic. How long will it take to make this teleportation scroll? Li Mo hadn't told the first elder that Yun Ruoyan was a furnace, but the first elder had heard Empress Xue Tong mention it. As a result, the first elder knew what was going on as soon as he heard their conversation. However, he pretended not to know anything and replied to Yun Ruoyan as naturally as possible. Originally, it would only take half a day, but just in case, I'm preparing to refine 4 spatial scrolls for you to use, so I'll need a full day. As a result, Li Mo followed the first elder to his training room, where the two of them as peak blade masters began to craft high-grade spatial scrolls. Because of the great elder's many years of research, the refining method summarized was not difficult to refine, but the requirements for spiritual power were very high. Yun Ruoyan stood to the side, watching as the two of them stood on opposite ends of a stone platform, their hands pushing against the scrolls on the platform and infusing spiritual energy into them. With the continuous infusion of a large amount of spiritual power, the scroll on the stone platform slowly began to have spiritual power, and the patterns on it gradually began to glow with spiritual power. By the time the sky was completely dark, the 2 spatial scrolls were finally completed. After a short rest, Li Mo and the first elder began to craft the other 2 spatial scrolls. As a 9th rank blade master, one would be able to slowly enter a state of anedia, so Li Mo and the first elder didn't need food. However, Yun Ruoyan didn't. When the sky darkened, she left the southern tower in search of food. Because it was the holidays, there weren't many students at Kongming Academy, and the cafeteria wasn't open. Yun Ruoyan saw that there was no one in the cafeteria, and just as she was worrying about how to fill her stomach, she saw a figure walking toward her. As the figure drew closer, Yun Ruoyan recognized who it was. Zhou Yifeng, what are you doing here? Yun Ruoyan asked in surprise. Wasn't he supposed to be at the Lin Manor with Zhou Linner? I didn't have much to do at the Lin Manor, so I came back to cultivate. It's quiet here and there's plenty of spiritual energy, Zhou Yifeng replied coolly. In the darkness of the night, Yun Ruoyan couldn't see Zhou Yifeng's face clearly, but she felt that he seemed much thinner and taller than when she'd first met him. The last time Yun Ruoyan had seen Zhou Yifeng was not long after her engagement to Li Mo. At that time, Kongming Academy had just started its holidays, and it had been almost a month since then. That day she had gone to the Lin Manor early in the morning to play. Lin Qingshan had told her that Lin Qingxue was practicing archery with Zhou Yifeng in the pavilion. Remembering that she had promised Lin Qingxue that she would give her a good bow once she was done with archery, Yun Ruoyan dragged Lin Qingshan along. As soon as the two of them entered the pavilion, they saw Zhou Yifeng holding Lin Qingxue in his arms, his large hand holding her small hand. The two of them were drawing a bow together. Lin Qingxue's round face was bright red and she was smiling sweetly. Zhou Yifeng was expressionless, but his body was pressed tightly against Lin Qingxue's. In the past, Zhou Yifeng would often correct Lin Qingxue's shooting posture in this manner, but he had only done so in the past. At that time, Lin Qingshan's expression had changed. She had wanted to step forward, but Yun Ruoyan had stopped her. After that, Lin Qingshan's face remained cold the entire time, but Zhou Yifeng acted as if nothing had happened. Only Lin Qingxue was foolishly immersed in her happiness. From that day onwards, Yun Ruoyan saw Zhou Yifeng twice more. Each time he was with Lin Qingxue, and the two of them were indeed much closer than before. Lin Qingshan was quite worried about this, and Yun Ruoyan comforted her that it was a good thing for Lin Qingxue to be with someone she liked, and that Zhou Yifeng was someone worth trusting. However, Lin Qingshan said that Zhou Yifeng didn't like Lin Qingxue at all, which was why she was worried. Yun Ruoyan had long known that Lin Qingxue liked Zhou Yifeng, but she couldn't tell whether or not Zhou Yifeng actually liked Lin Qingxue. However, based on her understanding of Zhou Yifeng, if he didn't like Lin Qingxue, he wouldn't be so intimate with her. That was how she comforted Lin Qingshan. However, after hearing her words, Lin Qingshan hesitantly asked her a question. Sister Ruan, I've always felt that Brother Zhou has someone he likes, but that person isn't Qingxue. Sister Ruan, do you feel that way? Lin Qingshan asked. Yun Ruoyan paused. She really hadn't felt that Zhou Yifeng had been so serious ever since she'd met him. Most of the time, Yun Ruoyan didn't know what he was thinking. Strangely, Yun Ruoyan didn't try to guess Zhou Yifeng's interests or thoughts. She simply felt that he was a friend worth befriending. If he likes someone, who else could it be if it's not Qingxue? Yun Ruoyan frowned. Lin Qingshan looked at Yun Ruoyan frowning as well. After a long while she finally replied, I don't know either. On the other hand, Yun Ruoyan took this matter to heart. When she had the chance, she had even asked Zhou Linner if Zhou Yifeng had liked any girls before they'd gotten to know each other. Zhou Linner said that he had, but she hadn't seen her brother like anyone. As a result, Yun Ruoyan had been looking for an opportunity to have a good chat with Zhou Yifeng. As Lin Qingxue's sister, Yun Ruoyan felt that it was her duty to clarify things for Lin Qingxue. And today was clearly a good opportunity for her to do so. Zhou Yifeng, I have something I want to talk to you about, Yun Ruoyan said. Let's find a place to talk. As Yun Ruoyan spoke, her stomach began to rumble, and Yun Ruoyan subconsciously placed her hand on it, rubbing it comfortingly. Zhou Yifeng's lips curled up involuntarily as he looked at her. Because of the misty darkness of the night, his smile grew larger and larger. Are you hungry? Zhou Yifeng smiled. Yes, I'm starving. The slaughtering king isn't even giving you a proper meal? He's busy right now. Come with me, I'll fill your stomach first, Zhou Yifeng said. Yun Ruoyan followed Zhou Yifeng toward the western cliffs. As they walked, Zhou Yifeng asked Yun Ruoyan why she and Liemo had come to the Kongming Mountains at this time. Zhou Yifeng knew that the two of them were newlyweds, so he was quite surprised to see Yun Ruoyan here. Yun Ruoyan didn't think that Zhou Yifeng was an outsider, and the appearance of an alternate dimension wasn't much of a secret, so she told him about it. The two of them chatted all the way to the cliffs. Kongming Academy was located on high ground, and even though it was already spring, there was still a layer of snow on the shady parts of the campus. Zhou Yifeng dug out a small magical rabbit that he had hunted earlier from the pile of snow behind a large boulder. After roasting the rabbit until it was tender, he quickly began to clean it up. Zhou Yifeng, I have a very important question for you. You have to answer me honestly, Zhou Yifeng didn't pause in the slightest. Don't ask me questions now. Ask me when I'm done roasting the rabbit in my hands. Only when you put your heart into it will it taste good. Zhou Yifeng glanced at Yun Ruoyan and his beast-like eyes lit up. He quickly lowered his head and returned his attention to the rabbit in his hands. Yun Ruoyan didn't expect Zhou Yifeng to interrupt her. As far as she could remember, Zhou Yifeng had never interrupted her in the middle of a conversation. In her memory, Zhou Yifeng would always quietly listen to her until she finished speaking, either nodding in agreement or quietly voicing his thoughts. The aroma of the roasted rabbit began to spread, but Yun Ruoyan was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't notice it until Zhou Yifeng called out to her. All right, here. Zhou Yifeng handed one of the rabbit's legs to Yun Ruoyan. Yun Ruoyan took a deep breath and took a big bite. Only when half of the rabbit was in her stomach did Zhou Yifeng ask, "What question did you want to ask me?" Chapter 313. Yun Ruoyan looked at Zhou Yifeng. He seemed different from before, but upon closer inspection, apart from being taller and thinner, there didn't seem to be any other obvious changes. Do you know that Qingxue likes you? Yun Ruoyan asked. Yes, Zhou Yifeng replied as he added more wood to the dying fire. Then do you like her? Yun Ruoyan asked. Yes, Zhou Yifeng answered without hesitation. Oh. When Yun Ruoyan heard Zhou Yifeng's reply, she couldn't help but sigh in relief, as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her shoulders. That's good then. Zhou Yifeng continued, my sister and I aren't related at all, and it's only thanks to the Lin family that we've been together. Qingxue and Qingxian treat us like family and I'll treat them like family, like a sister. Yun Ruoyan exhaled. That's not what I meant by like. I meant the kind of liking a man feels for a woman. How could you not understand? I really don't understand. Zhou Yifeng prodded at the burning coals, the light from the fire illuminating his beast-like eyes, obscuring his true emotions. Yun Ruoyan began to panic. Zhou Yifeng, let me tell you, Qingxue is sincere toward you and we can all see that. If you like her, you have to treat her well, and if you don't, you have to stay away from her. Yun Ruoyan stared at Zhou Yifeng, waiting for his reply. Only after a long while did Zhou Yifeng finally speak up. I can't promise you that. Why? Yun Ruoyan asked. Because Qingxue confessed to me and I rejected her. She said that as long as I didn't hate her she wouldn't give up, and that whether or not I liked her I'd give her a chance, Zhou Yifeng replied coolly. She said that she'd use her sincerity to move me. What? Yun Ruoyan was both shocked and helpless. She actually confessed to you and even said such a thing. What a silly girl. She is indeed a silly girl. Zhou Yifeng's lips curled up in a smile, and when Yun Ruoyan saw his smile, she felt strangely uncomfortable. Zhou Yifeng, no matter what, you can't hurt Qingxue. She's my sister, and if you dare hurt her I won't go easy on you. That's not something I can guarantee. Zhou Yifeng looked toward Yun Ruoyan, his tone serious. The reason I left the Lin family so early to come to the academy was because I wanted to distance myself from Xianxia and calm her down. But in a few days Xianxia will come back again. What do you think I should do? Zhou Yifeng met Yun Ruoyan's gaze, a faint smile in his beastly eyes. Yun Ruoyan stood up with a whoosh. I don't care. If you hurt Xianxia, I won't go easy on you. She turned to leave, but Zhou Yifeng spoke up from behind her. Why don't I go with you to the alternate dimension? Xianxia hasn't seen me for a long time and perhaps she'll calm down. Yun Ruoyan paused and turned back to look at Zhou Yifeng. I can't make this decision on my own. I'll have to get the first elder's approval. Wait for my news. After Yun Ruoyan left, Zhou Yifeng sat back down by the fire. A black-clothed figure appeared soundlessly by his side. Zhou Yifeng took a flask of wine from his waist and handed it to the black-clothed figure. You gave my dish to someone else. The black-clothed figure took the flask and took a sip. Zhou Yifeng used the stick in his hand to pull at the fire with all his might. With a crack, the stick in his hand broke into 2 pieces. He threw the broken piece into the fire with all his might. Master. Zhou Yifeng turned his head to look at the black-clothed man and said, if there is something that you love very much, but not only are you unable to obtain it, you also have to watch helplessly as it is taken by your enemy. What would you do? The black-clothed figure hesitated for a long time before replying, if it's just something, of course I'd try my best to get it back. But if it's a person and her heart isn't with you, what's the point of taking her away? Zhou Yifeng's bright eyes dimmed as he listened to the black-clothed figure's words. I'm useless, master, I'm really useless. Zhou Yifeng hung his head, his voice sad. I fell in love with a woman from the first time I saw her, but I never dared to show even a trace of my feelings in front of her. She's so beautiful, so noble, and in front of her, I'm as insignificant as dust. Master, I feel like a pitiful worm right now. The black-clothed figure patted Zhou Yifeng's shoulder and handed him the flask of wine. Zhou Yifeng took it and took a large gulp. The black-clothed figure sighed. In front of love, everyone is insignificant. Just like that girl called Lin Qingyi you were talking about, isn't she the same in front of you? If the child is yours, it'll always be yours. If it's not, no matter how much you worry about it, it'll be useless. Zhou Yifeng smiled bitterly and drank half of the flask of wine in one go. His head felt a little dizzy and he clutched his head and laughed bitterly. Master, tell me what's mine. It's not mine. I wanted revenge, but I found that my enemy was so strong that I couldn't catch up to him even if I spent the rest of my life. The woman I loved married my enemy before I even had the courage to confess my feelings for her. Master, tell me what's mine in this world and what's not. I can't accept this, I can't. As Zhou Yifeng spoke, his head gradually leaned against the black-clothed figure's shoulder, and he fell into a deep sleep. The black-clothed figure sighed, took the flask of wine from Zhou Yifeng's hand, and drank the last mouthful. By the time Yun Ruoyan returned to the southern tower, Li Mo and the first elder were still forging spatial scrolls, and it was likely that the day after they were done the sun would rise. When Li Mo saw Yun Ruoyan sitting by the side in a daze, he thought that she was tired and told her to get some rest. Yun Ruoyan decided that it wouldn't be too late to tell them about Zhou Yifeng the next day. As soon as Yun Ruoyan left, a black figure entered the southern tower. Both the first elder and Li Mo stopped their cultivation at the same time and looked at the black-clothed figure. The man in black took off the hood that covered his face, revealing a resolute face with a scar on it. Sunan. Li Mo looked at the man. Did something happen to mother for you to come here at this hour? Everything's fine with the Empress, Sunan replied. I'm here to ask for a favor on behalf of my son Zhou Yifeng. The next day when Yun Ruoyan woke up, Li Mo and the first elder had already finished forging the 4 spatial scrolls. Li Mo, there's something I need to tell you. Yun Ruoyan wrung out a clean, wet towel and handed it to Li Mo. Li Mo took the towel and began to wash his face. I saw Zhou Yifeng at the academy yesterday. Yun Ruoyan told Li Mo everything that had happened between Zhou Yifeng and Lin Xianxia. I'd like Zhou Yifeng to enter the nameless dimension with us. Otherwise, I'd be worried if I didn't stay here to look after Xianxia. Sure, let's bring him along. Li Mo agreed readily. In any case, we've already forged 4 spatial scrolls, so there's more than enough to go around. At noon, Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan, and Zhou Yifeng stood in front of the all-seeing mirror. I'm going to activate the all-seeing mirror's teleportation function. After you enter, you might appear in midair, so make sure to land safely on your swords, the first elder reminded them. The all-seeing mirror had a teleportation function, but the number of people it could teleport was limited. Moreover, because there was no teleportation array on the ground, those who were teleported would appear in midair rather than on the ground. As a result, if a large number of students were to be teleported from the academy to the trial, they would still use a teleportation array that had been set up in advance. Yun Ruoyan felt a blinding white light envelop her and she closed her eyes. Then a gust of wind suddenly blew, causing her hair and clothes to flutter, and her entire body became weightless. In the process of falling, Yun Ruoyan felt two hands simultaneously grab her left and right hands, slowing her descent. The white light disappeared, and when Yun Ruoyan opened her eyes, she found herself surrounded by misty white clouds. Li Mo. Yun Ruoyan called out loudly, but her voice was blown back into her mouth by the strong wind. She turned her head with great difficulty, only to see Li Mo and Zhou Yifeng holding onto her left and right. The moment the three of them passed through the clouds, the fog in front of Yun Ruoyan cleared, revealing a vast expanse of emerald green below. Li Mo and Zhou Yifeng both summoned green swords beneath their feet, and the three of them stopped their descent. Li Mo wrapped his arm around Yun Ruoyan's waist, and Zhou Yifeng let go, allowing Yun Ruoyan to fall into Li Mo's embrace. I didn't expect this place to be even more beautiful than the all-seeing mirror. Yun Ruoyan looked down from Li Mo's arms. The verdant canopy of the trees seemed to connect the heavens and the earth. The sky was clear and the clouds were as thin as silk. It was truly a paradise. The spiritual energy here is also much denser than on the Qinyuan continent. Li Mo's voice rang out by Yun Ruoyan's ear. Upon hearing Li Mo's words, Zhou Yifeng and Yun Ruoyan both activated a spiritual gathering technique. Indeed, the spiritual energy here seemed to be twice as dense as on the Qinyuan continent. Let's find a place to settle down first, Zhou Yifeng said before flying down on his sword. Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan followed closely behind. The three of them flew along the treetops for about 15 minutes before Yun Ruoyan finally saw a glistening spot not far from where they were. There's a lake over there. Let's head over, Li Mo said, and the three of them began flying toward the lake. However, just as the three of them were flying, a sudden change occurred. The clear blue sky suddenly darkened, and a gust of wind blew countless leaves from the canopy, sending them flying toward Yun Ruoyan's group like daggers. Chapter 3:14. Countless green leaves rained down on the three of them like a rain of daggers. But the three of them each had a spiritual barrier protecting them from the onslaught as they flew toward the lake. Li Mo was a peak blade master, and his barrier was even more resilient than Yun Ruoyan's and Zhou Yifeng's. Most of the green leaves bounced off it. As for Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng, their spiritual barrier began to crack under the relentless assault of the green leaves. Seeing this, Li Mo hurriedly hid Yun Ruoyan within his robes. Zhou Yifeng catch. Yun Ruoyan reached out from Li Mo's robes and tossed her dark steel dagger to Zhou Yifeng. Just then a green leaf shot over and scratched Yun Ruoyan's outstretched hand, leaving a bloody gash on it. Zhou Yifeng took the dagger from Li Mo. As he struck the green leaves that were attacking him, he urged the sword under his feet with all his might and followed Li Mo toward the lake. The three of them finally left the attack range of the green leaves and landed on the surface of the lake. The three of them landed by the lake and Yun Ruoyan emerged from Li Mo's robes. Is your hand all right? Zhou Yifeng walked up and handed the dagger back to Yun Ruoyan. Oh, it's nothing. Just a small scratch. As Yun Ruoyan took the dagger back, she glanced at the back of her hand. There was a cut on it and a trickle of blood was dripping down. You're bleeding. Zhou Yifeng frowned as he took out some gauze from his storage pouch to bandage Yun Ruoyan's wound. Suddenly, Li Mo walked over and took out a handkerchief he always carried with him. Give me your hand. Li Mo's expression didn't look too good. Yun Ruoyan obediently stretched out her hand in front of him and allowed him to bandage her wound. Why would these green leaves suddenly attack us? Yun Ruoyan looked at Li Mo curiously. Her movements were nimble and she was protected by her own barrier of spiritual energy. She hadn't expected the green leaves to cut the back of her hand, and it was clear how powerful they were. Could it be that someone's controlling it from behind the scenes? Zhou Yifeng asked. Both he and Yun Ruoyan couldn't help looking around. It could also be a unique phenomenon of this space. Different dimensions tend to have different environments, so we have to be careful. As an instructor who often led his students into the trial grounds, Liemo was quite familiar with alternate dimensions. Zhou Yifeng and Yun Ruoyan had entered the trial grounds twice before, and this was only their third time. The first time was in a desert oasis and the second time was in a forest of giant trees. The environments of the two trial grounds were very different. This time the three of them arrived at a beautiful fairyland-like scenery. However, behind this beautiful scenery, there were countless dangers waiting for them. After Liemo finished bandaging Yun Ruoyan's wounds, the three of them walked along the lakeshore for about 15 minutes before discovering that the lake extended into a valley. In the valley, the three of them could see a small cottage by the lakeshore. The three of them were overjoyed to see the cottage. Apart from the beast-taming students who had been here 3 years ago, there couldn't be anyone else in such a remote place. The three of them quickened their steps toward the cottage, but it was only when they arrived that they realized that it was an abandoned house. There were even some household utensils in the cottage, indicating that someone had lived here for a long time. However, all the utensils were covered in a thick layer of dust, indicating that the owner had been gone for a long time. "A woman used to live here," Liemo said as he brushed away the dust on the table. "How did you know? What did you discover?" Yun Ruoyan looked at him. Liemo pointed to a wooden comb by her hand. "This is a comb that women use to comb their hair." Yun Ruoyan walked over and saw that it was indeed a comb with a peach blossom carved on it. "A husband and wife lived here, right?" Zhou Yifeng asked from the corner of the room. Yun Ruoyan and Liemo looked at him. Zhou Yifeng pointed to a wooden cradle by the corner of the room. "This is an infant's cradle and it's only half finished." "Were there any married couples among the students who came with you?" Yun Ruoyan asked Liemo. Liemo shook his head. "No, but there were male and female students. It's not impossible that they got married later on. But where did they go now?" Yun Ruoyan looked at the half-finished cradle. Zhou Yifeng and Liemo shook their heads, unable to answer that question. "The furnishings here are clean and tidy, and the cradle is only half finished. Although they left in a hurry, they probably left of their own volition," Zhou Yifeng continued. "Not necessarily," Liemo replied. "It's possible that they were forced to leave before they even had a chance to enter the house. The three of them didn't find anything of value in the house, so they walked out. Instead of lingering by the lake, they headed into the nearby forest to investigate the situation. Perhaps it was due to the abundance of spiritual energy here, but the vegetation here was extremely lush and verdant, even taller and more luxuriant than on the Qinyuan continent. However, the three of them had experienced the giant forest in the past, so they were no longer surprised by the tall trees in front of them. In the forest, the three of them walked for about the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the forest in front of them. Dozens of rabbits, pheasants, and a few other small animals that Yun Ruoyan couldn't name came running over. "Mistress, there's a magical beast up ahead," Qiu reported in Yun Ruoyan's mind. Yun Ruoyan nodded. She had also sensed the aura of magical beasts and a large number of them at that. However, based on their auras, these beasts should be low-rank beasts that weren't very lethal. The three of them didn't stop, continuing in their original direction. Not long after, an even louder commotion could be heard from up ahead. The first thing Yun Ruoyan saw were 7 or 8 red dog-like beasts sprinting toward them from the forest ahead. "Hounds," Zhou Yifeng remarked. As he spoke, he unslung his bow from his back, nocked an arrow and fired at the hounds in front of them. The powerful arrow pierced through the body of the fierce mane hound after killing it, and landed on the head of the fierce mane hound behind it. That hound let out a pained howl before collapsing to the ground. The hounds that had been running were so startled by this sudden attack that they stopped in their tracks. However, more and more hounds began to run up from behind, forcing those that had stopped in front of them to charge toward Yun Ruoyan's group once more. "What's going on? Is it a stampede of beasts?" The three of them leaped up a large tree and watched in shock as nearly 1,000 hounds ran past them. Although the hounds weren't high-rank beasts, it was still rare to see such a large number of them. Normally, there would only be thousands of magical beasts in a beast tide, and they were all made up of different magical beasts. But now there were thousands of fierce-maned hounds. "Surely they can't be the only beasts here, can they?" Yun Ruoyan asked. That day in the all-seeing mirror, There were many different species of beasts. "This place is indeed different," Liemo said. "Let's continue forward." By this time, nearly 1,000 hounds had passed by them. Holding Yunruo's hand, Liemo jumped down from the tree and the three of them continued forward. What the three of them didn't expect was that another batch of red-eyed wolves, if not 1,000 then a few hundred. These red-eyed wolves were of a higher level than the fierce-maned hounds. Some of the red-eyed werewolves weren't as observant as the whole-maned hounds. When the main group left, nearly 30 red-eyed werewolves surrounded the tree that the three of them were standing on. Evidently they were treating the three of them as prey. The red-eyed wolves weren't high-rank beasts, but Xianxia had said that their beast cores contained fire-attuned spiritual energy, and that they could be refined into a fiery pill that could speed up one's cultivation. As a result, Yunruoyan decided to kill a few of them. "It's been a long time since I've hunted beasts, so let's get some practice today." Yunruoyan bade farewell to Liemo and Zhou Yifeng before jumping down from the tree, dagger in hand. As soon as the 30 red-eyed wolves saw Yunruoyan jump down from the tree, they pounced on her without hesitation, and Yunruoyan's spiritual barrier immediately began to seep out of her body. Although the red-eyed wolves had sharp claws and sharp fangs, their cultivation was too low, and they couldn't break through Yunruoyan's 8th-rank Blademaster's barrier. Relying on the barrier's protection, Yunruoyan didn't need to defend herself at all. She raised the dagger in her hand and stabbed at the red-eyed wolves by her side, one at a time, each stab aimed at a vital point. In a short while she had killed more than 10 red-eyed wolves. Only then did the remaining wolves realize that these beasts weren't food for them to hunt, but hard bones that they couldn't even chew on. The remaining dozen or so demon wolves gave up on attacking, turned around and chased after the large group. Yunruoyan was enjoying her hunt to her heart's content. Because of the spiritual barrier's protection, there wasn't a single trace of blood on her body. With Liemo and Zhou Yifeng's help, the red-eyed wolves' beast cores were quickly extracted. By this time the sky had already darkened, and the three of them were preparing to return to the lakeside to rest for the night. Just as they were about to leave, an even louder sound came from behind them. A woo! The beast's roars came from ahead like a flash flood. "Mistress, there's a pack of high-rank beasts up ahead," Xianxia reported. Yunruoyan, Liemo and Zhou Yifeng glanced at each other, the same question in their minds. What's going on? Could it be that this was a magical beast taming ground? Is there no end to this? Chapter 3:15. Before the three of them had much time to react, another group of beasts appeared in the forest in front of them. These beasts were large and covered in tiger pelts, and there was a large Wong character on their heads. They looked like giant tigers, but they had 2 fangs protruding from their mouths. These were the saber-toothed tigers that Yunruoyan had slain before. The saber-toothed tigers were high-rank beasts, and their attacks were many times stronger than those of the fiery-maned hounds and red-eyed wolves. None of the three dared to take them lightly, and they all leapt up into the trees. There were more than 200 saber-toothed tigers in this group, and each one of them was enormous in size. As a result, even though the trees in the 3 forests were tall, many of the trees were still broken by their fangs. As Zhou Yifeng looked at the fangs of the saber-toothed tigers, an idea popped up in his mind. He only had less than 10 tiger canine arrowheads left in his quiver. Although they could be recycled and reused, he had still expended quite a few of them in battle. Of the 30 that Yunruoyan had gifted him, there were now only 10 left. Zhou Yifeng wouldn't bear to use these 10 arrowheads unless absolutely necessary, but the saber-toothed tiger's fangs were extremely valuable, and they were almost priceless in the capital. He hadn't expected them to be everywhere in the forest, and if he didn't make a move now, he wouldn't have such a good opportunity in the future. Zhou Yifeng thought excitedly. This time I have to get 8 or 10 fangs and forge them into a few hundred arrowheads. Although that was what Zhou Yifeng was thinking, he wasn't in a hurry to act rashly. Given the 3 of them's strength, even 10 such high-rank beasts wouldn't be a problem. But now there were nearly 200 of them. If these 200 saber-toothed tigers were to be provoked, it would be no laughing matter. Thus Zhou Yifeng quietly waited. When the 200 magical beasts were almost gone, Zhou Yifeng pulled out an arrow with a tiger-tooth arrowhead from the quiver on his back. He aimed it at one of the saber-toothed tigers and shot it, piercing its head with a single strike. The saber-toothed tiger howled. Although it didn't die, it collapsed to the ground, unable to get up. Zhou Yifeng was about to shoot a second tiger when Li Mo stopped him. What's wrong? High-rank beasts like saber-toothed tigers are extremely loyal to their companions. Under normal circumstances, you'll only hunt them when they're alone, Li Mo explained. If you hunt them like this, they'll take revenge. Although Zhou Yifeng was good at hunting, he didn't know much about high-level magical beasts. This was the first time he heard of such a thing. Indeed, as soon as Li Mo finished speaking, the saber-toothed tigers behind him stopped in their tracks and surrounded the injured tiger. One of the larger saber-toothed tigers raised its huge head, its two golden tiger eyes looking at the tree that everyone was hiding in. Zhou Yifeng once again knocked an arrow and aimed it at the saber-toothed tiger. Li Mo reached out and pressed down on the arrow. Then Li Mo looked at the tiger's golden eyes and stretched out his hand to draw a complicated pattern in its direction that Yun Ruoyan couldn't understand. The diagram emitted a scarlet glow of spiritual energy as it floated in midair. When the saber-toothed tiger saw the scarlet diagram, its eyes narrowed, and it lowered its huge head in Li Mo's direction. Then it led the other saber-toothed tigers away, leaving the injured one behind. Only when the large group of saber-toothed tigers had left did the three of them jump down from the tree and stand in front of the injured tiger. Li Mo, what did you do? Why did they suddenly leave? Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. I drew a Beastmaster contract formation, Li Mo explained. Then I infused the formation with spiritual energy from a sword saint, and the saber-toothed tigers left in fear. If Li Mo hadn't mentioned it, Yun Ruoyan would have almost forgotten that he was a Beastmaster as well. The first time Yun Ruoyan had seen Li Mo form a contract with a beast was when he had tamed the soul-stealing bird, Mo, in the forest of giant trees. This was the second time she had seen Li Mo display his abilities as a Beastmaster. If only Mo had come along, Yun Ruoyan murmured. Mo's demonic voice was particularly effective against magical beasts. However, ever since Mo had been brought out of the forest by the two of them, she hadn't seen it at all. It was almost as if it had been released into the wild. Li Mo's cultivation was high, and he usually didn't need its help. As a result, he had almost completely forgotten about it. Given Mo's current cultivation, it won't be easy for him to deal with a high-level beast like the saber-toothed tiger, Li Mo said. As he spoke, he stretched out his hand and a green sword aura appeared in it. The green sword aura grew another half a foot in his hand, and Li Mo stabbed the saber-toothed tiger's heart, ending its pain. Zhou Yifeng's sword also appeared in his hand, and he used it to remove the two tiger canine arrowheads and place them in his storage pouch. After doing all this, the three of them began to walk back. The path back had been trampled by a horde of magical beasts, and the trees were toppled over. Once a horde of magical beasts formed, their destructive power couldn't be underestimated. Where do you think these beasts came from and where are they headed? Zhou Yifeng asked as they hurried along. Yun Ruoyan didn't know and she looked toward Li Mo waiting for his answer. I don't know. We'll come back tomorrow. The three of them rested for the night. Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng brought enough water for them to drink, and then the three of them set off once more into the forest. Today they didn't encounter any beasts, but they did encounter quite a few beasts of various sizes. Given their cultivation, as long as the beasts weren't sage-ranked, they wouldn't be a problem. Li Mo was rather worried. If the Beastmasters had encountered such a beast tide 3 years ago, there would have been many casualties. Someone's here. Just as the three of them were walking, Li Mo suddenly sensed someone's aura approaching and the three of them stopped. Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng also sensed the aura of more than one person. Suddenly an arrow flew toward Li Mo's head. Li Mo reached out and caught the arrow in his hand. The arrowhead was made of dark steel, and it turned out to be a specialized arrow from the Beastmaster Academy. Before Li Mo could speak, another volley of arrows flew toward them. Li Mo didn't move, instead standing in front of Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng. The spiritual barrier around his body deflected most of the arrows, and the remaining ones didn't do much damage to Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng. Are you from the Beastmaster Academy? I'm Li Mo. Qin Feng, is Master Qin here? Li Mo called out loudly, his voice imbued with spiritual energy, and the entire forest reverberated with his voice. The arrows that were flying over all stopped at this moment. Before anyone could be seen, a deep male voice rang out. Li Mo. I'm Qin Feng. A tall, burly man dressed in beast skin walked out of the forest, followed by a dozen or so men and women. "Master Mo, it's really Master Mo," one of the youths exclaimed as soon as he saw Li Mo. "Ah, thank goodness. Someone from Kongming Academy has finally come to save us. I thought I'd never be able to return home." Sob. When these youths saw Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan and the others, they were all extremely emotional and some of the girls even started crying uncontrollably. Qin Feng walked up to Li Mo and suddenly threw his head back and laughed heartily. "It's been 3 years, Li Mo." The tall, burly man looked at Li Mo with tears in his eyes. "I've brought these students to this damned place for 3 years and you're finally here." After a brief conversation, Li Mo followed Qin Feng and the other Beastmaster students to their temporary lodgings. It was a very simple cave with only a few pieces of beast skin, a few simple weapons and a few campfires. Yun Ruoyan and the others were all very surprised. In such a beautiful and resourceful place, how could a group of cultivators be living in such dire straits? The cave was rather dark and as soon as they entered, a dozen or so people surrounded Yun Ruoyan's group and began asking questions at once. "How's Kongming Academy? Are the others from the Beastmaster Academy doing well? Master Mo, how are our parents? Master Mo, we'd like to go back now. When are you going to take us back?" One of the students asked. "Kongming Academy's all-seeing mirror allows us to see a valley here, and it's where the spiritual energy is the most abundant. We need to find it and get in touch with the first elder from there." "Isn't the spiritual beast valley the one with the most abundant spiritual energy?" one of the female students asked. As soon as the female student mentioned the valley, everyone's expression darkened. "What's the matter? Is there something wrong with the valley?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "The valley is a very special place and we don't even dare to go near it," Master Qin replied. "What's special about it?" Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng asked simultaneously. The group of students all revealed expressions of lingering fear. Finally, Master Qin began, "There's a cave there, but we don't know where it leads to, but from time to time things will come out of it." "Things? What things?" Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. "Sometimes it's a large group of beasts like the horde from yesterday. These beasts usually wander around aimlessly, leaving a mess wherever they go," one of the students explained. "Sometimes it's people from a different dimension," the female student explained. The female student continued to explain with a trembling voice. "Their cultivations are very high. They came here to hunt magical beasts. But if they see us, the men will be killed without mercy and the women will be taken away." Chapter 316. Yun Ruoyan, Zhou Yifeng and Li Mo were all stunned by the explanations of the students and Master Qin. There was actually a cave here that could connect to another world. "Qin Feng, what exactly happened after you arrived here 3 years ago?" Li Mo's gaze swept over the surrounding students. "I remember very clearly that when the first elder and I brought you in 3 years ago, there were 33 of you. Now there are only 16 of you left. Have the rest been killed?" Qin Feng sighed, slowly recounting the events of the past 3 years to Li Mo. Back then, Qin Feng had brought a total of 33 students and instructors from the Beast Taming Hall through a formation set up by the All-Seeing Mirror. However, as soon as they entered, they encountered a horde of high-rank beasts at that. Although the cultivation of these 33 people was not low, in a situation where they were completely unprepared, they could not withstand a single blow from the high-grade demonic beasts. The 33 people were quickly scattered by the demonic beasts. I brought 7 people to search for the scattered students. After 3 days we were only able to find 11 people. The rest of the students went missing during the attack of the demonic beasts. Even now we don't know if they are alive or dead." Qin Feng said in a low voice. "One of those magical beasts was a bloodthirsty demon lion. I saw a senior sister get swallowed by one of them, and the rest of the juniors were likely in their stomachs as well," a skinny, muscular youth said. A skinny, muscular youth called out. Yun Ruoyan had heard the others call him Tian. "I didn't expect to encounter such danger as soon as I entered, nor did I expect to see so many missing students. As a result, I gave up on the idea of hunting the beasts. All I wanted to do was find the missing students and return to the academy," Qin Feng continued. "But 5 days later, when we returned to the formation according to the original time, we discovered that the formation had disappeared. We had completely lost contact with the academy. At that time, Qin Feng and his students had tried all sorts of methods to contact the academy, but all of them had failed. In the end, they had given up all hope. Apart from the despair of not being able to contact the academy, they soon discovered that this seemingly beautiful space was actually filled with unimaginable dangers. Beasts would appear from time to time, as well as strange winds that would suddenly appear, as well as ferocious beasts that would devour humans. What was even more frightening was that one day they actually met people from another world in a valley. At first we were very happy to see them, thinking that they were people from the Qinyuan continent. We thought that we could go home with them, but when they found out about our current situation, they immediately turned violent, said a female student called Haiyan. Out of our 3 instructors, 2 of the male instructors were killed on the spot, and the female instructor was kidnapped by them. They said that they would bring her back to a place called the Darkest Land to be sold, Atian said. At this point there was a short period of silence in the cave. This was something that the surviving students did not want to recall. They needed time to calm their pain and fear. In that case, how did you escape from them? Yun Ruoyan asked after a short while. Didn't we escape? Qin Feng replied, these people are extremely cruel and vicious. They feel that killing us like this is too boring, so they want to play a game with us. Every time someone is chosen to play with them, the loser will be killed. All 7 of my instructors were killed in the game, and I'm the only one who survived. What kind of game? Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng asked almost at the same time. Yun Ruoyan clenched her hands tightly. Because she was so angry, her hands had turned red. Zhou Yifeng also gripped his bow tightly. Qin Feng said that this game was called the Gopher's Game by the people from the other dimension. They believed that they were of a higher status than the people from the Qinyuan continent, so they called themselves Gophers. The so-called Gopher's Game was to divide up a region and have one of Qin Feng's students enter that region as prey, while the people from the other dimension would enter to hunt. It would last for 3 days. Within these 3 days, if the prey could successfully hide without being discovered and not be eaten by the magical beasts in this area, then the winner would be the winner. I was the first to play this game, Qin Feng said. Qin Feng said, I almost died inside. In the end, I was lucky enough to escape, but my instructors were not as lucky as me. When Qin Feng mentioned this game, the faces of the 10 or so students all turned pale. Of the 7 instructors, the last had been killed in the previous game, and the remaining students would have to take over. If even the instructors didn't survive, we'd be going to our deaths, one student said. Not necessarily, Atian consoled. Atian comforted everyone, saying, I remember the last game was 3 months ago, maybe those demons from the other world have already forgotten about us. If we can return to the Qinyuan continent before those demons arrive, we'll be saved. That's right, there's hope for us to return now. I don't have to play that damned game anymore, and we don't have to die. That's great. Atian's words had indeed saved everyone from their fear. But the Valley of Spiritual Beasts isn't a good place to go. Qin Feng's face was still full of worry. Those demons forbid us from entering, and they've set up a special barrier there. If we barge in, they'll know immediately. Do we have to go to the valley to set up a teleportation array? Can't we do it elsewhere? Qin Feng asked. Liemo knew that Qin Feng wasn't a timid person, but the fact that he was so nervous was enough to show just how frightening those demons were. But the more he thought about it, the more he wanted to go and see for himself. Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng shared Liemo's sentiments. Since they were here to face all sorts of dangers, and if they wanted to return, the Valley of Spiritual Beasts was the only way out. In another half a year, we'll be going to the alternate dimension to train, Liemo told Qin Feng. Liemo turned to Qin Feng. We'd like to make use of this opportunity to see how many heads and arms they have. Liemo had learned quite a bit about the foreign world from the first elder. The most important of which was that the people there were generally very powerful cultivators. Even a random person on the streets was an 8th rank blade master. In addition, there were no laws in the alternate dimension, and the only law was one's cultivation. There was no country, and all the resources were controlled by a few of the larger families. These families often fought with each other, and many people died in each battle. In short, the alternate dimension was a very cruel place. Now that Liemo had heard from the crowd, the description of the otherworldly beings was quite accurate to what he had imagined. Cruel, cold-blooded, and inhumane. It's already dark. Let's rest for the night and set off for the spiritual beast valley tomorrow, Liemo suggested. All right, in that case I'll take you there tomorrow, Qinfeng replied. After a simple meal the group quickly fell asleep. For some reason Yun Ruoyan suddenly couldn't fall asleep. Beside her was Haiyan. She was also tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Haiyan. Yun Ruoyan called out. Haiyan turned to Yun Ruoyan. Sister Ruoyan, what's the matter? Haiyan was a very young girl. Yun Ruoyan was already an adult, but Haiyan was only 14 years old. How did you enter the beast taming hall at such a young age? And you don't seem to have a very high cultivation? Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. Yun Ruoyan's impression was that those who could enter the 3 halls of the 5 colleges had to be at least as strong as she was. However, none of the 16 students had a cultivation higher than Yun Ruoyan's. Beast taming is different from pill masters, forge masters and blade masters, Haiyan explained to Yun Ruoyan. As beast taming students, their talents as beast taming students were revealed relatively early, and they had to start training at an early age. Almost all of the current students had been chosen to enter the beast taming hall as soon as they entered Kongming Academy. Haiyan's father was an instructor at the beast taming hall, so Haiyan grew up there. We had a few powerful seniors but they all died in the game. My father died in the game last month and perhaps I'll be the next to die. Haiyan's voice grew softer and softer and her body began to tremble. It'll be fine. Yun Ruoyan patted her comfortingly. We'll definitely bring all of you back to the academy, don't be afraid. Yes. Haiyan turned to Yun Ruoyan, her eyes full of hope. Haiyan, can I ask you another question? Yun Ruoyan asked. What is it? There's a lake not far from here and there's a well-preserved wooden hut by the lake. Is that where you lived together? No, Haiyan replied. The house was already there when we arrived, but we don't know who lived there before. Based on the decorations inside, Master Qin speculated that there might have been a couple living there, but for some reason the couple suddenly left. Was that so? Yun Ruoyan was deep in thought. Actually, when she saw that cottage she felt that it was very familiar. She was sure that she'd seen it somewhere before and perhaps even visited it before, but she couldn't remember when or how. Since she couldn't think of anything, she decided not to think about it. Li Mo and Qinfeng were keeping watch outside the cave, and she finally fell into a deep sleep. The next day, Qinfeng instructed the remaining students to remain in the cave. Then he brought Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng toward the Valley of Spiritual Beasts. Originally, the 3 of them had wanted to fly on their swords, but Qinfeng stopped them. He said that flying on a sword would cause a strange wind to blow, and that the strange wind would attack the swordsman as if it were some sort of restriction. In short, flying on a sword was forbidden here. Since they couldn't fly on their swords, they could only rely on their feet. The 4 of them traveled without stopping for an entire day before finally arriving at the Valley of Spiritual Beasts, which was said to be a terrifying place, but looked like a paradise in the all-seeing mirror. Chapter 317. Under Qinfeng's lead, Yun Ruoyan's trio entered the valley. As soon as they entered, Qinfeng grew visibly nervous. He had everyone conceal their auras as much as possible, and they had to move quickly to end the battle as quickly as possible. Yun Ruoyan looked around at the vast valley of spiritual beasts. It was verdant and lush, and there were more than a dozen herbivorous beasts roaming around in search of food. If not for Qinfeng's constant nervousness, she would have thought that this was a paradise on earth. Where's the cave where the beasts and otherworldly beings come from? I'd like to take a look, Yun Ruoyan asked Qinfeng. Qinfeng turned to look at Yun Ruoyan, his brows furrowed and his expression troubled. Let's find the place with the densest spiritual energy. In order to find the place with the densest spiritual energy, they couldn't completely conceal their auras. As a result, Li Mo released a portion of his own aura. He injected his spiritual power into his eyes and saw that there was a place at the back of the valley that was emitting a white light. Over there, Li Mo replied. That's the place with the densest spiritual energy, the best place to set up a teleportation formation. When Qinfeng saw where he was pointing, his frown deepened and his expression became ugly. He sighed and said, "That is where the mysterious cave is." Although they knew that it was an extremely dangerous place, they still headed in that direction. But under Qinfeng's influence, they were even more cautious. 15 minutes later, A gigantic ancient tree appeared in front of them. 15 to 16 people wouldn't be able to surround the tree, and there was a huge cave on the tree's body. The entrance of the cave was deep and serene, and there were thick vines crawling along its edges, obscuring the darkness inside even more. This is the cave entrance. 3 years ago we accidentally discovered this place. My 3 instructors went in to investigate, but in the end they were kidnapped by 3 people from another world. They killed 2 male instructors in front of us and then took the female instructor away. Qin Feng said. The 4 of them were hiding in a shrub not far from the cave. According to what you're saying, this cave is a pathway to the otherworldly realm, Zhou Xian said. Zhou Xian said, if we go in from here, we might be able to save that female instructor. Absolutely not. Qin Feng hurriedly interrupted him. He then looked at this young man who was born like a calf who was not afraid of tigers and said, you guys have not seen their prowess before. If you enter from here you will only be courting death. Zhou Xian did not refute Qin Feng's words, but he stubbornly stared at the entrance of the cave. Yun Ruoyan turned to Qin Feng and Liu Mo. We can't just sneak around like this. If we want to establish contact with the first elder and set up a teleportation formation, there'll be a huge commotion. Stay here and don't move. I'll go take a look, Liu Mo said, then stood up from the bushes. I'll go with you. Yun Ruoyan stood up as well. Liu Mo glanced at her before extending his hand toward her, and the 2 of them walked out of the shrubbery, hand in hand. As soon as the 2 of them walked out, Zhou Yifeng also stood up. The 3 of you. Qin Feng saw the 3 of them walking towards the entrance of the cave, so he could only follow them. As Yun Ruoyan and Liu Mo walked toward the entrance of the cave, both of them could feel the dense spiritual energy gushing out of the cave. When the 2 of them injected their spiritual power into their eyes to look at the entrance of the cave, they saw white cloud-like spiritual energy continuously gushing out of the cave. As expected, this is the source of all the spiritual energy in this alternate dimension, Liu Mo exclaimed. Roar. Just as the 2 of them approached the entrance of the cave, they suddenly heard a high-pitched roar coming from the depths of the cave. Roar. Then roars of magical beasts rang out one after another from within the cave. At the same time, the tremors of the earth and mountains shaking spread out from the entrance of the cave. A horde of beasts is coming out. Qin Feng cried out. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 or 3 beasts with sharp fangs and leopard markings all over their bodies rushed out of the cave. Their movements were so fast and ferocious that Yun Ruoyan and Liu Mo had never seen anything like this on the Qinyuan continent. Ignoring Qin Feng's warning against flying on swords, the 3 of them leapt onto their swords. Liu Mo took Yun Ruoyan and Zhou Yifeng took Qin Feng into the air, looking down at the horde of beasts rushing out of the cave. However, in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, nearly 100 leopard-tattooed beastess with sharp mouths and fangs came out of the hole. Following that, a large number of sharp-horned devil antilopes came out, and the hole in the giant tree seemed to have become even bigger. After a steady stream of magical beasts rushed out of the cave, they ran in groups in all directions. Everywhere they went, the earth shook and the mountains shook. It was a complete mess. The demonic beasts that were originally in the Spirit Beast Valley were either killed, injured, or escaped from the impact. The roars and wails of the demonic beasts echoed throughout the entire Spirit Beast Valley. However, this alternate space was indeed very large. With so many magical beasts suddenly barging in, they could only cause damage to a small area and did not have a big impact on the entire space. When the number of beasts gradually decreased, Liu Mo turned to Qin Feng and asked, "Where's your spiritual sword?" Qin Feng cultivated earth elemental spiritual energy, and his sword was a yellow earth-attuned spiritual sword known as the Great Ravager. However, he hadn't used it in the nick of time, so Liu Mo asked. "It was stolen by a man from an alternate dimension called Thunder Soul," Qin Feng replied from behind Zhou Yifeng. Zhou Yifeng and Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but turn to look at him. A spiritual sword was extremely important to a blade master. Furthermore, after becoming a blade master, spiritual swords would become more and more useful to a blade master's cultivation. After becoming a blade master, spiritual swords would become more and more useful to a blade master's cultivation. If a blade master's spiritual sword was destroyed or stolen, they would have to replace it with a new one. Otherwise, their cultivation would slow down or even stagnate. I suggest that we leave this place immediately. Despite his tall and burly figure, Qin Feng always seemed timid, which Yun Ruoyan and Zhui Feng didn't like. Even Li Mo frowned. When a slender black hound suddenly chased the last colossal armed monkey out of the cave, Qin Feng's expression became even more grim. He sighed and said, "There's no need to leave now, it's too late." "Someone's coming," Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. She saw two figures following the slender black dog out of the cave. "They're from an alternate dimension." Qin Feng's deep voice rang out. The two people who walked out of the cave were a boy and a girl. Both looked to be younger than Yun Ruoyan, around 12 or 13 years old. The girl was dressed in a bright red outfit, and her hair was slightly red, tied into a high ponytail. Her face was a contradictory combination of immaturity and beauty. The youth, on the other hand, had short hair that was as red as fire, and clumps of hair pointed in all directions. He was dressed in black, revealing his muscular arms, and carried a large sword on his back. Both of them were young, but they gave off an aura of sharpness that didn't match their age. The young girl raised her head and saw the four people in the sky. She let out a cry of surprise and a smile appeared on her face. She turned to the youth beside her. "Thunderbolt, look. There are 3 new faces here." The youth tilted his head and said with some interest, "3 people are fun. Hunters are always more interesting than hunting wild beasts, and I like the taste of human blood. 2 of them can fly on their swords and they should be 8th rank blade masters," the girl said, tapping her chin with a finger. "That's rare. I heard that the hamsters in the lower realms have to train until they're 20 or 30 to become 8th rank blade masters, but these people look pretty young." As the youth spoke, he felt a gaze land on him and he turned to meet Zhui Feng's gaze. Their gazes were equally sharp and piercing, and it seemed as if sparks would fly even from a distance. "Interesting." The youth began to grow excited. How dare they be so arrogant with such a low cultivation? After saying that, he turned to the slender black hound in front of him that looked no different from a normal puppy and said, "Thunderbolt, go get me that kid with the bow." "No, Thunderbolt, bring me that girl in the red dress," the girl in the red outfit ordered. The black dog, Thunderbolt, didn't know what to do and could only shake its tail and walk around in circles. Thunderbolt glanced at Yun Ruoyan, who was hovering in Li Mo's arms. She was an extremely beautiful girl, a beauty that was rare even in their world. Thunderbolt turned to the girl and smiled. "That girl isn't bad. She should be worth quite a lot of spirit crystals in the Twilight Realm." Then the youth turned to Thunderbolt. "Bring me that girl and I'll reward you with a blood lingji mushroom." Black Hound Thunderbolt howled as it rolled on the ground. Then it stood up and stomped its hind legs in the direction of Yun Ruoyan. Like a bolt of lightning it flew away. Whoosh! Zhui Feng fired an arrow at Black Hound, causing sparks to fly out from the bow in Zhui Feng's hand. Zhui Feng's archery had always been top-notch and he had never missed his target. Even Li Mo had acknowledged this. Now that he was an 8th rank blade master, the power of his arrows had doubled. Even if he couldn't kill the black dog, he should at least be able to injure it severely. But strangely, when the black hound saw Zhui Feng's arrow, its lightning-fast speed actually paused for a brief moment in midair. It was this strange pause that allowed the tiger canine arrowhead to graze the black hound's fur and miss its target. The black dog bared its sharp fangs and bit down at Yun Ruoyan. "Hey, Thunderbolt, don't bite through the skin or it'll be worthless," the youth called out anxiously, but his voice was stuck in his throat the next moment. Li Mo's hand was gripping the dog's neck and it was dangling in midair. Li Mo's hand was covered in a layer of blue ice and there was a fang mark on it. Chapter 318. Thunderbolt. Li Mo shouted at the sky, his eyes glinting as he looked at Li Mo and Yun Ruoyan, who was still in his embrace. The black hound in Li Mo's hand was spitting out a mouthful of blood. Its tongue was hanging out of its mouth and there was a gaping hole in its chest. When the black hound had pounced at Yun Ruoyan, Li Mo had reached out to grab it, but the hound had agilely changed directions in midair and bit down on Li Mo's arm. However, Li Mo was a peak sword saint. His powerful spiritual energy immediately seeped out of his body, and a faint blue ice crystal formed on his arm. The black hound bit down on the ice crystal. It didn't look particularly special, but its fangs were incredibly sharp. Even the ice crystal formed by Li Mo's spiritual energy left a deep mark on it. Yun Ruoyan, on the other hand, didn't hesitate to stab the dagger in her hand into the black hound's heart. As a result, this scene unfolded in the blink of an eye. You. The youth pointed a finger at Liam. How dare you kill my cloud-devouring beast? I'll bury all of you with me. You gophers sure have guts, Lai Yun yelled at Liamo and the others. How dare you fight back? You must be tired of living. What a joke. Are we just going to wait for death if we don't fight back? Zhou Yifeng replied coldly. Li Mo held Yun Ruian in one hand and Thunderbolt in the other as he looked down at the youths below. Dressed in a black robe, he asked coldly, Where did you come from? You lowly gophers aren't fit to ask us where we come from. Prepare to die. Is that so? Li Mo replied coolly, then loosened his grip. The black hound fell from the sky, landing heavily on the ground. Then the black hound's corpse began to transform. In the end, it turned into a rather large black magical beast. Unfortunately, it was already a dead magical beast. Just you wait. The young man looked at the corpses of the magic beasts on the ground and took out the sword on his back. He formed a sword seal and the sword let out a yellow light and floated up. The youth leapt onto the sword and rose into the air, facing off against Yun Ruian and Limo's gaze landed on the giant sword beneath the youth's feet. It seemed extremely familiar to him. Without turning his head, he asked, Qin Feng, is the sword beneath that kid's feet your obelisk? Yes, that's the great ravager that was stolen from me. Qin Feng said, Liamo, this brat is called Splitter Yang. He's not hard to deal with. The hard one is his brother Splitter Mountain. His brother was also a peak blade master and was extremely powerful. Many of the barriers here were set up by him. Liamo narrowed his eyes, then beckoned at the Thunderbolt. Thunderclap's son was already furious, and Limo's provocation only served to inflame him further. With a loud roar, he retrieved a snow-white spiritual sword and charged at Liamo. Liamo and the others had concealed their auras, and in the eyes of the youth and the girl, they were only 8th-rank blade masters. When the youth charged at Liamo abruptly unleashed his cultivation as a peak blade master. The gust of spirit energy had almost completely dissipated the youth's momentum. The spirit sword that the youth was holding stabbed into the chi wave formed by the gust of spirit energy, but was unable to move forward even a little bit. Lai Yun, who was on the ground, suddenly reacted and shouted at the youth in the air, Thunderbolt, come back. That person's hiding his strength and you're no match for him. Come back. Thunderbolt also reacted, but it was already too late. Liamo raised the hand that had formed the blue crystal and extended it toward him. A blue vortex slowly formed in Limo's palm, and that blue vortex formed a suction force that slowly drew the youth into his palm. The girl panicked when she saw this, and with a flip of her hand she threw a flying dagger at Liamo. Yun Ruian, on the other hand, had been paying attention to the girl's movements the entire time. She quickly deflected the dagger with a fireball. She's hiding her strength as well? Lai Yun was astonished. Yun Ruian had been concealing her cultivation as a 5th-rank blade master all this time, but now she had suddenly revealed herself to be a peak 8th-rank blade master. Who are they? The girl wondered. Aren't the hamsters supposed to have low cultivations? How could one of them be a peak blade master? By now, Thunderbolt was in Limo's hand, just as he had the dog, and Qin Feng's sword had returned to his hand. Go back and tell Splitter Mountain to bring back our female instructor in exchange for his brother, Liamo instructed Lai Yun. Liamo turned to Lai Yun. Tomorrow at the latest, or I'll have him collect his brother's corpse. The girl looked up at Liamo as she retreated toward the entrance of the cave. Just you wait. If you dare harm a single hair on Thunderbolt's head, all of the hamsters here will die. As the girl disappeared into the cave, Limo's group didn't linger in the valley. Instead, they hurried back. In order to save time on their way back, the group flew on their swords. The youth was tied up by Limo's vines and held up in his hands. As the youth cursed and pinched, Zhou Yifeng grabbed a handful of grass from the ground and stuffed it into the youth's mouth. On the way back, they were once again attacked by the strange wind and leaves. This time, however, Limo's force field blocked the wind with spiritual energy. However, Yun Ruian discovered something strange. When the leaf had attacked, it had only attacked the 4 of them, not the youth in Limo's hands. As a result, Yun Ruian began questioning the youth. Hey! Yun Ruian kicked the youth. Let me ask you, why didn't the leaves attack you? The youth's mouth was stuffed with grass and he couldn't speak. Even if he could speak, he would only curse loudly. Hey! Yun Ruoyan kicked him again and the youth turned to glare at her, but Yun Ruoyan ignored him. After roughly 2 hours the group returned to the cave. The dozen or so students were shocked to see Li Mo carrying a person from a different world. The youth was thrown into a corner of the cave. The students had all suffered at the hands of the otherworldly man, and they could no longer suppress the anger in their hearts. They began to beat and kick the youth. In the process, the grass in the youth's mouth fell out and he began to curse again. "You lowly creatures, stinky hamsters, how dare you treat the second young master of the Splitter family like this? I'll crush you to pieces." "Alright. But before we do, we'll kill you first for the sake of our seniors and instructors," Tianfeng shouted angrily. His kicks became heavier and heavier and the youth was soon beaten black and blue. Alright, that's enough." Yun Ruoyan walked over to the angry students. "Tomorrow we're going to use him to exchange for your instructors. Don't kill him." Only then did the students stop beating the youth and disperse. Yun Ruoyan hugged her arms as she looked down at the bruised and battered youth on the ground. The youth spat out a mixture of grass and fresh blood. "Stinky woman, don't think that I'll be grateful to you. When my brother comes to capture you, I'll still have to sell you." Yun Ruoyan stuffed his mouth with the grass on the ground again. That night, as they sat together for dinner, the students asked them what had happened in the spiritual beast valley. To boost their morale, Qin Feng recounted how Li Mo had captured the youth. Indeed, the students were greatly encouraged, and the fear of the otherworldly man that had been hanging over their heads for so long was greatly reduced. It turned out that the people from the other world were not invincible. "I'll go take a look," Yun Ruoyan whispered into Li Mo's ear. She grabbed a roasted drumstick and a flask of water, walked up to the youth by the corner and kicked him. The youth opened his eyes. Yun Ruoyan knelt down and helped him up. Then she removed the grass from his mouth and brought the canteen to his lips. The youth first looked at Yun Ruoyan but he didn't drink. Yun Ruoyan replied coldly, "Drink or you'll die of thirst before tomorrow." Only then did the young man open his mouth to drink a mouthful of water. He did not swallow the first mouthful of water. Instead he rinsed and spat out the dirt in his mouth before drinking it in big gulps. After drinking the water, Yun Ruoyan handed the roasted drumstick to him before standing up to leave. "Wait." The youth stopped Yun Ruoyan and said, "I don't owe you a favor. Otherwise, you won't be satisfied when I kill you tomorrow." Yun Ruoyan smiled at the youth, waiting for him to speak again. "The reason those leaves didn't attack me today was because I had a avoidance charm on me," the youth continued. "My brother was the one who set up the restriction on flying swords, and he was the one who made the avoidance charm for me." "Where is it?" Yun Ruoyan squatted down again and looked at the youth with wide eyes. "Show me that avoidance charm." "It's in my arms," the youth replied. "Help me loosen it and I'll show it to you." As soon as the youth finished speaking, Yun Ruoyan reached her hand into the youth's robes and began searching. "Hey!" The youth's eyes widened as he looked at Yun Ruoyan, who was only a few feet away from him. "Found it!" Yun Ruoyan exclaimed happily. She took her hand out of his robes and revealed a square object folded with yellow paper between her fingers. You little rat, how dare you!" Not only did the youth's eyes widen, but he also seemed to be blushing. Yun Ruoyan held the yellow paper in her palm and glanced at the youth. "Brat, don't call me a rat. You're in our hands right now, and when we save our people tomorrow, we'll see if the students here don't skin you alive." Chapter 319. "What? I saved your people and you'll eat me alive?" The youth laughed as if he'd heard the funniest joke in the world. "Stop dreaming. Once my brother makes his move, you'll all die. Are all otherworlders as good at bragging as you?" Yun Ruoyan crossed her arms and smiled at the youth. "Weren't you the one who got your teeth knocked out today?" "Humph." The youth snorted. "I'm only 13 this year and I'm a peak 7th rank blade master. Of course I couldn't defeat that black-robed man, but my brother is a 2nd rank sword saint. That black-robed man is at most a 1st rank sword saint, and he's nothing in front of my brother. Do you know how much of a difference in strength there is between a single rank in a sword saint's cultivation? I dare say that as long as my brother makes his move, that black-robed man will die for sure." The youth's words were extremely arrogant, but Yun Ruoyan didn't think he was boasting. After all, they knew far too little about the otherworldly world. Of those who had been to the otherworldly world, the first elder and Yunlan, They were all extremely secretive about it, and Yun Ruoyan didn't know why. This time, however, she could learn more about the otherworldly world from this youth. Yun Ruoyan didn't interrupt the youth, but instead asked him a lot of questions with great interest. The youth had been quite depressed after being kidnapped, and now that he was bragging about how strong he was, it was a good way to vent his frustrations. Through the youth's explanation, Yun Ruoyan learned that the otherworldly world wasn't actually a single world, but rather a continent made up of many different dimensions. The Qinyuan continent was just one of the most insignificant of the many dimensions, and in the youth's words, they belonged to the lowest realm. The continent the youth was on was called the Qinyuan continent, a mid-ranked continent. Apart from the low-ranked and mid-ranked continents, there was also a high-ranked continent called the Extreme Abyss continent. Those who came to the Dark Abyss continent from lower realms were called gophers by the natives of the Dark Abyss continent. There were two reasons for this name. One was because they felt that people from lower realms were too insignificant, and the other was because they would be given an identity medallion upon entering the Dark Abyss continent. The emblem of a gopher was carved into the medallion. Yun Ruoyan had learned from the youth that a large number of lower realm cultivators would go to the Dark Abyss continent every year. They had to do the hardest work there, and their lives weren't guaranteed. On the Dark Abyss continent, people of lower realms usually lived like dogs, struggling at death's door. Many of them died on the Dark Abyss continent. The young man said, "There are a few who manage to endure for a certain period of time and obtain the opportunity to return to a lower plane, but those people are as rare as phoenix feathers and qilin horns." The youth's words caused Yun Ruoyan to sink into deep thought. She'd had many fantasies about the alternate world, but she'd never imagined that it would be like this. It turned out that the Qinyuan continent was just a drop in the ocean of this world. It turned out that there were many other continents like theirs in this world. In the eyes of the otherworlders, they were as insignificant as rats from a low-tier plane, insignificant creatures that could be easily killed. Yun Ruoyan's worldview had been refreshed. This world was far more complex and vast than the one she knew. "Hey, what's wrong with you? Are you scared out of your wits?" The young man smiled and said, "I advise you bunch of gophers to obediently welcome my big brother's wrath tomorrow with the attitude of a lowly creature. Maybe my big brother will be merciful and not kill you immediately. My brother loves to play games of catching people. If you can win the game by a fluke, then you can stay in the hunting ground and continue to struggle at death's door. You're the one who's living at death's door." Yun Ruoyan smacked the youth's head hard before turning to leave. Yun Ruoyan returned to Li Mo's side and told him everything she had heard from the youth. She also handed the square piece of yellow paper to Li Mo. Just like Yun Ruoyan, Li Mo fell silent for a long time after hearing all of this. "Didn't the first elder tell you about the alternate world?" Yun Ruoyan asked Li Mo. "Yes, but only a small part of it," Li Mo replied. "He's never mentioned it in such detail." "What about Mother? Didn't she tell you about it?" Now that Yun Ruoyan was married to Li Mo, she also addressed Empress Xue Tong as her mother. Yun Ruoyan knew that Empress Xue Tong was from an alternate world, but she didn't know exactly which one. "Mother is from the Extreme Abyss continent that you mentioned. She's a holy maiden of the Silver Dragon clan, and her movements are restricted. She's never been to the Extreme Abyss continent, so she's not familiar with it. The Extreme Abyss continent is a high-class continent, and Mother said that it's sparsely populated and isn't as interesting as the human realm. That's why she found an opportunity to sneak into the Qinyuan continent to meet my father and stay here." Yun Ruoyan leaned her head on Li Mo's shoulder and closed her eyes. By now it was already late at night and most of the students had gone to rest. Only a few remained by the fire chatting quietly. Just as Li Mo thought that Yun Ruoyan had fallen asleep, Yun Ruoyan spoke up. "Li Mo, I'm a little worried about tomorrow. If that Thunderbolt Badian is really as powerful as Thunderbolt Yang says, and he's a second-level sword saint, I'm afraid we really won't be his match." Li Mo patted Yun Ruoyan's back gently. "If we really encounter any danger tomorrow, immediately activate the teleportation scroll." "All right," Yun Ruoyan said. Li Mo held Yun Ruoyan in one hand and in the other he was studying the yellow paper that Yun Ruoyan had taken from Thunderbolt Yang. She had heard from the First Elder and Empress Xue Tong that talismans and formations were relatively high-class techniques that could only be used by cultivators who had reached the realm of Sword Saint. Such cultivators were as rare as a phoenix's feather on the Qinyuan continent, so talismans and formations were on the verge of extinction. Liemo looked at the yellow paper in his hand. It seemed that these two techniques were fairly common in this alternate world. In contrast to Yun Ruoyan's worries, he was very much looking forward to tomorrow's battle. It had been a long time since Liemo had fought a truly strong opponent. Just a few days before their wedding, he had gone to the Minghuang Mountains Dragon Vein again. This time he had defeated the Silver Dragon Elder with almost no effort at all. At that time, Liemo hadn't even reached the realm of Sword Saint. Now that he desperately needed to fight against a true expert so that he could unleash his full strength. The next day, when Liemo's group of 4 brought Thunderbolt Yang to the cave that led to the alternate world, Thunderbolt Batian didn't appear. 4 people came out of the cave. Lai Yun walked in front and 3 burly men followed behind her. Judging from their attire, they should be guards. However, the 3 of them were all peak 9th rank blade masters. Lai Yun said that Thunderbolt Batian had gone to participate in an important tournament and wouldn't be back until 3 days later. She also said that she'd already sent someone to search for the female instructor who had been sold off. The 2 parties agreed to meet again in 3 days to carry out the exchange. And within these 3 days, Liemo's side had to ensure Thunderbolt's safety, while Lai Yun's side had to guarantee that no one would step into the valley. Yun Ruoyan was very happy with this arrangement. In 2 days they would be able to contact the first elder, and if they were lucky, they might even be able to establish a teleportation array to send the 16 students back to the valley without any interference. Thunderbolt Yang, on the other hand, was living a life worse than death. Every single one of the 16 students hated him to the core, and if not for Yun Ruoyan holding him back, who knew how many times he would have been beaten every day. When the students saw that Yun Ruoyan was protecting Thunderbolt Yang, they began to recount the youth's various crimes, such as having his black hound drive magical beasts to destroy the home they had worked so hard to build. For example, he had injured one of the students and arrogantly mocked them in a game of manhunting. As the students recounted his crimes, Thunderbolt Yang only laughed at them the entire time, without the slightest hint of repentance. In his heart, the people in front of him were all lowly existences, even worse than the magical beasts he had raised. However, after Yun Ruoyan's warning, despite his disdain, Thunderbolt Yang didn't try to make things difficult for himself. The protection he had received over the past few days had made him feel a little grateful toward Yun Ruoyan, but he didn't know that Yun Ruoyan had a motive for doing so. Over the past 2 days, Yun Ruoyan had learned quite a bit about the Heiyuan continent that they would be heading to in half a year. There was no kingdom on the continent, only a few relatively powerful families. The Thunderbolt family, the Lai family, the Wu family, the Feng family, the Jing family, the Hua family and the Qin family. Thunderbolt Yang was the second young master of the Lai family, and his father, Thunderbolt, was the head of the Thunderbolt family. Yun Ruoyan also learned that the dimension they were currently in was just one of the Thunderbolt family's hunting grounds, a place where the scions of the large families could hunt for fun. Based on the youth's tone, Yun Ruoyan and the other gophers from the lower plains deserved to be hunted down as prey for entering their hunting grounds by mistake. Yun Ruoyan didn't refute his words as fiercely as the others, nor did she mock him disdainfully. Instead, she listened calmly, her face expressionless. In Yun Ruoyan's eyes, the youth's words could be interpreted in another way. You're weak, you don't have enough power, and so you deserve to be bullied. Be it in her past life or this one, Yun Ruoyan had a deeper understanding of this situation. She didn't feel angry or sad, only a determined heart that would continue to grow stronger. I'm not the same kind of person as these gophers, the youth said to Yun Ruoyan. How can you tell? Yun Ruoyan asked curiously. I don't know. It's just that I have a feeling that you and that black-robed ice-faced guy aren't from a lower plane. Yun Ruoyan and Liemo had the Silver Dragon bloodline and the Demonic Dragon bloodline respectively. Strictly speaking, part of their bloodlines didn't belong to the Qinyuan continent. This youth called Thunderbolt is arrogant and domineering. His cultivation isn't high, but he has a pair of good eyes, Yun Ruoyan thought. However, she naturally wouldn't tell him this. Yun Ruoyan smacked the youth's head and said coolly, You're thinking too much. Chapter 320. You seem quite close to that black-robed man. What's your relationship with him? Thunderclap asked as Yun Ruoyan turned to leave. Husband and wife. He's my husband, Yun Ruoyan replied without turning around. In the dead of night, Yun Ruoyan slowly drifted off to sleep in Li Mo's embrace. In her daze she seemed to hear someone calling her name. Ruoyan, Ruoyan. The voice was very familiar. It was none other than her mother, Lin Yueme. Yun Ruoyan stood up in a daze and looked in the direction of the voice. Mother, mother. Yun Ruoyan searched for her mother amidst the white fog. Mother, where are you? In the blink of an eye, Yun Ruoyan had passed through the white fog and arrived at a valley. Under the bright moonlight, there was a small house next to a sparkling lake in the valley. Yun Ruoyan felt a sense of familiarity. Wasn't this the valley that they had arrived at when they had first entered this alternate dimension? Yun Ruoyan walked toward the hut, and when she finally got close to it, the sense of familiarity grew even stronger. Yun Ruoyan felt as if she had been here before, not when she had first entered this alternate dimension. Just then a voice came from within the hut. Longyin, do you think they'll find this place? Yun Ruoyan recognized the voice as her mother's. She hurriedly walked forward, but the door wasn't closed. Yun Ruoyan stepped inside. Then she saw Lin Yueme lying on the bed, her complexion not looking too good. Meanwhile, the man she called Longyin was feeding her a bowl of steaming rice mouthful by mouthful. I don't know either, Longyin replied. Although this alternate dimension is well hidden, it's not impossible for them to find it. Longyin stopped what he was doing and turned to Lin Yueme. Yueme, if you're afraid, I'll send you back to the Qinyuan continent. They won't dare to attack you on the Qinyuan continent. No. Lin Yueme immediately sat up and said excitedly, Dragon Cry, I want to be with you. As long as I can be with you, I'm not afraid of anything. As Lin Yueme spoke, she grabbed Long Yin's hand and placed it on her belly. And our daughter Yin. Our family of 3 will be together forever in life and in death. A sudden gust of wind blew past, and Yun Ruoyan felt an icy chill on her face. She reached out to touch her face, only to find that she was crying. Yueme, this is for you. Longyin took out a silver bracelet and placed it in Lin Yueme's hands. What a beautiful silver bracelet. Lin Yueme turned the bracelet over and over in her hands, allowing her to clearly see what it looked like. Yun Ruoyan looked at the bracelet on her wrist in shock, then stepped forward to look at Lin Yueme's bracelet. Only then was she sure that the silver bracelet was the one she was wearing on her wrist at the moment. This isn't an ordinary bracelet, Longyin explained to Lin Yueme. How so? Is there something special about it? Lin Yueme asked doubtfully. I found this bracelet by accident in the Beast King's palace, and there's a spiritual energy pocket within it. This pocket was sealed by a powerful spiritual energy, and it took me a great deal of effort to break a small crack in the seal. I found an ancient spirit beast, the Flame Qilin, sealed inside, said Longyin. It seemed to have been severely injured and had reverted to its cub form. It's currently in a deep slumber. Because I've broken the seal, it should awaken in the near future. At that time you'll be able to form a blood pact with it and it'll protect you and our child. At Longyin's request, Lin Yueme dripped a drop of blood on the bracelet, and it became her possession. This bracelet had been given to Yun Ruoyan by her father, but before Qiuqiu could awaken from her slumber, her mother had passed the bracelet on to Yun Ruoyan. If Yun Ruoyan could find her mother, she would surely be very happy to hear that Qiuqiu had awakened. Yun Ruoyan looked at the bracelet on her wrist and 2 streams of tears flowed down her cheeks. Although she had never seen Longyin in person, every time she saw him in her dreams, she would have a strange feeling. This must be the feeling of kinship. Yun Ruoyan could clearly feel the deep love her father had for her mother and herself. And this, take it. Longyin took out another item and placed it in Lin Yueme's hands. A scroll. What's this? Lin Yueme clearly didn't recognize the scroll, but Yun Ruoyan did. It was a spatial scroll, and once opened, Lin Yueme would be transported to another location. It's just a defensive artifact, Longyin replied. Instead of telling Yun Ruoyan the truth, Dragon Cry said, if something unexpected happens, open the scroll and it'll protect you. Lin Yueme nodded as she took the scroll. Suddenly the scene changed from night to day. Lin Yueme was still lying on the bed, her complexion as pale as ever. Longyin, I think the child in this womb is likely to be a boy. Lin Yueme's face was pale, but her smile was serene and loving. Otherwise, why would I have such a big reaction in just 2 short months? Longyin was fiddling with a few pieces of wood in the room, trying to piece them together. Yun Ruoyan could tell that it was a baby's cradle. Daughters are precious, so your reaction must be a girl. Long Yin lifted his head from the pile of wood and smiled at Lin Yueme. Their gazes met through Yun Ruoyan's body, and she could clearly feel the deep love they had for each other in their eyes. Just then the earth shook violently and Lin Yueme screamed in fright. Yueme. Long Yin hurried forward to protect the frightened Lin Yueme. Young Master Long, you've really made it hard for us to find you. Once the surroundings had calmed down, a man's voice could be heard from the door. When Yun Ruoyan looked toward the door, she saw a man with a head full of red hair. His appearance was rather seductive and he wore a blue robe. Behind him were several burly men dressed like warriors. I didn't expect to be found even after escaping all the way here. Long Yin stood up and stood in front of Lin Yueme. I'm the one you want to capture, so don't hurt my wife. The red-haired man tilted his head to look at Lin Yueme. His eyes narrowed and his lips curled into a demonic smile. That won't do. I'm under orders from the Grand Elder of the Silver Dragon clan to capture anyone with the demonic dragon bloodline. Apart from you, your wife also has a demonic dragon bloodline in her body. The red-haired man's gaze swept over Lin Yueme's abdomen, which she covered with her hand. You won't even spare a child, Long Yin murmured. The demonic dragon bloodline has the ability to resurrect the entire demonic dragon clan. The Silver Dragon Elder said that he'd rather kill 1,000 than let one live. The red-haired man said unhurriedly, however, if you are willing to tell us the location of the demon dragon tomb, we will destroy it and eliminate all the dragon souls. Your bloodline will be useless. In that case we won't have to kill you. Do you want to consider it? Long Yin snorted. I won't betray my ancestors, so don't even think about it. Haven't you already betrayed them? The red-haired man continued. For the sake of the woman behind you, for the sake of your own life, you went against your own destiny and didn't heed the summons of the demonic dragon soul to resurrect them. Isn't that a betrayal? Not only are the silver dragons hunting you, but the demonic dragons are also searching for you. Only by destroying the demonic dragon clan will you be able to live a peaceful life, won't you? Enough with your flowery words, Long Yin said decisively. If you want to kill me, just do it. All right. Seeing that Long Yin wouldn't budge at all, the red-haired man's expression turned cold. Then don't blame me for being impolite. After the red-haired man finished speaking, he gestured to the samurai behind him. The samurai pulled out their swords from their waists and walked towards the dragon. When I open the scroll, Long Yin turned to Lin Yueme. Protect yourself. Lin Yueme nodded, then opened the teleportation scroll in her hand. A white light shot out from the scroll and enveloped Lin Yueme. A moment later, Lin Yueme disappeared from everyone's sight. So there's such a trick. The red-haired man's anger flared as he pulled out a blood-red whip from his waist and lashed out in Long Yin's direction. Yun Ruoyan's entire body trembled as she awoke from her dream. What's wrong? Li Mo was awakened by Yun Ruoyan's movements. When he looked down at her, he saw that her face was deathly pale, her forehead was beaded with sweat, and there seemed to be tears at the corners of her eyes. I had a dream. Yun Ruoyan pressed her head tightly against Li Mo's chest. In my dream I saw my father and mother. Li Mo gently stroked Yun Ruoyan's hair and rested his chin on top of her head. He didn't say a word, only quietly listening to her. Li Mo, Yun Ruoyan finally raised her head. Come with me somewhere right now. The sky was still dark and the two of them arrived at the lakeside cottage. Now that she was back in this cottage, the place where her parents had once lived, her feelings were vastly different from the first time she had come here. Li Mo, I came to this place in my dream, Yun Ruoyan said as she stroked the dusty bed. Yun Ruoyan stroked the dusty bed. When I first saw this room it felt very familiar, but I just couldn't remember where I'd seen it before. Now that I think about it, I've been here in my dreams and this is where my parents used to live. Where your parents used to live? Li Mo couldn't help but be suspicious. Why would official Yun bring Madam here? Not my father from the Yun Manor, Yun Ruoyan continued, but my own father. Chapter 321. Yun Ruoyan sat down on the simple wooden bed and slowly told Li Mo everything about her birth. Li Mo was only a little suspicious at first, but he wasn't shocked. He told Yun Ruian that ever since he had accompanied her to the demonic dragon tomb, he had begun to suspect that her father was her biological father. Of course, this was only a suspicion and he didn't have any proof. Now that he heard Yun Ruian's story, his suspicions cleared up. However, the fact that Yun Ruian possessed the demonic dragon bloodline still exceeded Li Mo's expectations. "Li Mo, my father was ambushed by the silver dragon elders and I don't know if he's dead or alive. My mother might still be alive, but there's no trace of her." Yun Ruian curled up on the bed once more. "I have the demonic dragon bloodline, and the silver dragons won't let me off if they find out. Don't worry, I'm here." Li Mo pulled her into his embrace. "Even if a deity from beyond the heavens were to appear, I wouldn't let them harm you in the slightest. My mother's body is also in the hands of the silver dragon first elder, and will seek justice from him." By daybreak, the group had once again arrived at the Valley of Spiritual Beasts. With Thunderbolt as a hostage, Yun Ruian's group didn't have to worry about any sudden attacks from the otherworldly realm. 2 days later, at the entrance of the valley, where the spiritual energy was the most abundant, Li Mo successfully established contact with the first elder. When he learned that Qin Feng and a dozen other students were still alive, the first elder was overjoyed. Using the all-seeing mirror as a medium, the two of them immediately began to construct a teleportation array. After spending an entire day and night, the two of them worked together to finally build the teleportation array. Qin Feng hurriedly rushed back to bring the 16 students to the teleportation array. By the time they reached it, it was already afternoon. Li Mo and Lai Yun had agreed to meet today, but they didn't know when they would arrive. Li Mo and the others didn't dare to waste any time, and they immediately sent the students through the teleportation array. Having stayed here for 3 years, the students were naturally elated to be able to return. Just as 6 out of the 16 students had been sent away, the roar of a magical beast could be heard from the other side of the tunnel. However, this roar came from a single magical beast and not from a group of magical beasts like last time. "It's the sound of Thunderbolt!" Thunderbolt exclaimed excitedly. "Who's Thunderbolt?" Yun Ruian looked toward the cave entrance. "Thunderbolt is Thunderbolt's father, the cloud-devouring beast that you and that ice-faced fellow killed together." Thunderbolt answered honestly, "Thunderbolt is my demonic beast and Thunderbolt is my brother's demonic beast. My brother is here. I advise you to run away or else you won't have a chance." "Really?" Yun Ruian smiled, not the slightest bit afraid. "I'm curious though. How many eyes does this godlike fellow have?" Or, as soon as Yun Ruian finished speaking, a black-furred, slender, dog-shaped magical beast ran out of the cave. This must be Pai Lai, Thunderbolt's father, the magical beast that Thunderbolt had mentioned. Indeed, the two beasts looked exactly the same. Because she had seen the cloud-devouring beast in its true form, Yun Ruian didn't dare to treat it as an ordinary dog-like beast, as she had seen Thunderbolt for the first time. Following behind the magical beast was Lai Yun, who was dressed in red, followed by a blue-robed man with a head full of red hair and a devilish appearance. Behind the man were 3 muscular warriors. Their attire was exactly the same as the warriors in the dream. When Yun Ruian saw the red-haired man, her heart trembled. She clearly remembered that this was the red-haired man who had barged into the cottage in her dream. "Who's he?" Yun Ruian suddenly pointed at the man, her voice so loud that Li Mo, Zhui Feng and Thunderclap all turned to look at her. "He's my brother, Thunderbolt," Thunderbolt replied. "He's a second-rank blade master. Hurry up and let me go, lest my brother gets angry and makes all of you die horribly. Even if we die horribly, we'll make sure to make you our scapegoats." Zhui Feng turned back and glanced coldly at Thunderbolt. By this time, 8 of the students had already passed through the formation, and the remaining 8 were about to pass through. It would take time for the 8 of them to pass through the formation. "What do we do?" Qin Feng asked Li Mo. Continue. Li Mo looked at the group of people walking out of the cave. "We'll hold them off until all the students return." Li Mo walked forward and Yun Ruian handed Thunderbolt to Zhui Feng. She and Li Mo walked side by side, while Zhui Feng followed behind with Thunderbolt. The two of them stood some distance away from each other, facing each other. "Thunderbolt, are you all right?" Lai Yin asked Yun Ruian and the others. Yun Ruian and Li Mo took 2 steps to the side, revealing Thunderbolt, who was being held captive by Zhui Feng. "Not dead yet," Thunderbolt replied, craning his neck. Where's the person we're looking for? Yun Ruoyan asked, her gaze landing on the blue-robed Thunderbolt Batian standing behind Lai Yun. Thunderbolt Batian's seductive face remained expressionless as he extended his hand and gestured to the few burly men behind him. A woman walked out from behind the burly man. Her hands, feet and neck were all shackled. Her face was haggard and she looked haggard. Her clothes were tattered to the point that they barely covered her body. Behind the woman was a warrior who pushed the woman along the way, causing her to stagger. Lan Ying. Qin Feng's voice came from behind, agitated and angry. Liamo, she's my female instructor, Lan Ying. What did these beasts do to her? I'm going to kill them. Liamo, Zhou Yifeng, Yun Ruoyan, and the remaining students were also infuriated by the female instructor's description. I've brought the person you're looking for, Lai Yun began. Release Thunderbolt now. You guys let our people come over first. Zhou Yifeng tightened his grip on Thunderclap, and with a loud crack, Thunderclap let out a muffled groan. How dare you? Lai Yun shouted at Zhou Yifeng. You've injured our man so badly that I'd like nothing more than to break his arm. Zhou Yifeng growled. Release our man now. Don't doubt me. If you try anything funny I'll kill him. As soon as Zhou Yifeng finished speaking, Thunderbolt groaned once more. Yun Ruoyan saw that one of Thunderbolt's arms had already been deformed by Zhou Yifeng's grip. Thunderbolt gritted his teeth and didn't make a sound. We'll release him first. Thunderbolt Batian finally spoke. His voice wasn't loud but it reached everyone's ears. Yes, master. The burly man who was holding Lan Ying unlocked the shackles on her feet and pushed her forward. Lan Ying staggered a step forward, then walked towards Zhou Yifeng and the others step by step. Master, those hamsters are using a teleportation array to escape, one of the burly men whispered to Thunderbolt Batian. Thunderbolt Batian took out a red handkerchief from his sleeve and wiped his hands. So what if they're escaping? They're just a bunch of insignificant beasts. Keep an eye on the three in front or I'll skin them alive. No, leave that woman for me. Thunderbolt Batian pointed at Yun Ruoyan. She's worth more than this. I don't do business that's a loss. Yun Ruoyan and Li Mo's gazes were constantly on Thunderbolt Batian. Naturally they hadn't missed him when he pointed at Yun Ruoyan. Follow behind me and don't act rashly. Li Mo could sense that Yun Ruoyan seemed to hate Thunderbolt Batian, and he was afraid that she would act rashly. They've all been sent away. At this moment Qin Feng walked up from behind. He held the gigantic saber in his hand and stood together with the three of them. Master Qin. Only then did Lan Ying see Qin Feng. Her eyes, which seemed to have dried up, were filled with tears. Lan Ying. Qin Feng called out. He walked forward, put away his sword and took off his outer robe. Lan Ying, I'm sorry I didn't protect you well enough. However, just as Qin Feng was about to reach Lan Ying Pai Lai, the sky-swallowing beast behind her, suddenly leaped forward like a bolt of lightning. Its original canine form instantly transformed into a gigantic pitch-black beast with a mouth full of sharp teeth. When Qin Feng saw this, he threw down the robe in his hands, pulled out his sword, and slashed at the sky-swallowing beast behind Lan Ying. Zhou Yifeng was holding on to Thunderbolt so he couldn't attack. As for Liamo, he appeared between the sky-swallowing beast and Qin Feng in a flash of green light. At the same time, the sky-swallowing beast spat out a huge ball of flame towards Qin Feng and Zhou Yifeng. Liamo was already in front of Qin Feng. He pushed out his palms and an ice shield appeared in front of him, blocking the ball of flame. Split up. A burly man by Pai Baishan's side commanded. The other three burly men behind him charged towards Yun Ruoyan, Zhou Yifeng, and Qin Feng with a flash of sword light. It seemed as though each of them wanted to deal with Yun Ruoyan's group in one fell swoop. When Lai Yun saw this, she took out a flying dagger and was about to shoot it out, but Pai Batian stopped her. Miss Lai, you're a guest of the Pai family. How could we allow you to kill these lowly rats? Wouldn't it be more interesting if we just stood here and watched the show? When Lai Yun saw Pai Baishan's luxurious red robe and his hands behind his back, she said, but Thunderbolt is still in their hands. Chapter 322. Teach him a lesson so that he won't be so impulsive in the future, Lei Batian said indifferently. On the other side, Yun Ruoyan, Zhou Yifeng and Qin Feng had already begun fighting with the three burly men. Yun Ruoyan took out her Scarlet Eye Spirit Sword, which she wielded in her hand. In addition, her movements were extremely nimble and she attacked from afar or at close range. For a moment, the burly man whose cultivation was higher than Yun Ruoyan's wasn't able to gain an advantage over her. On the other side, Zhou Yifeng had his bowstring looped around Lei Yang's neck, controlling him in his hands. With Lei Yang as a shield and the Jade Cord Spirit Sword in his hand, Zhou Yifeng didn't look like he was going to lose. The only one who was struggling was Qin Feng. In the past 3 years his cultivation had improved very little. Furthermore, Juk had just returned to his hand so he wasn't 100% proficient in using it. As a result, after a dozen or so exchanges with the burly man, whose cultivation wasn't lower than his, he gradually began to show signs of strain. Liemo was still fighting with the heaven-devouring beast. Surprisingly, the heaven-devouring beast's cultivation had also reached the realm of consummate, and all of the flames it spat out were spiritual flames. Of those present, only Liemo's ice shield could withstand the flames. For those with lower cultivation than the heaven-devouring beast, Yun Ruoyan and the others would most likely be devoured by the flames in an instant. Liemo, Qin Feng can't hold on any longer. When Yun Ruoyan saw Qin Feng who was being forced to retreat step by step while fighting with the brawny man, she couldn't help but anxiously shout out. Liemo had also noticed this, and just as he was looking at Qin Feng, the burly man suddenly used his other hand to shoot an icicle at Qin Feng. At this moment, Qin Feng was using Juk to block his opponent's slash, and he couldn't do anything about the icicle attack. All he could do was watch as the icicles shot toward his head. Retreat. At this moment, Liemo suddenly let out a low growl as he pushed the ice shield in his hands toward the heaven-devouring beast. The sudden burst of power clearly shocked the heaven-devouring beast. The sky-devouring beast howled as it was knocked back by the ice shield. In that split second, Liemo released a fireball at the 5 icicles that were shooting toward Qin Feng. Liemo's fireball was much faster than the icicles, and in the blink of an eye, it had enveloped all 5 icicles. When the burly man saw that a fireball had appeared out of nowhere and melted his icicle, he subconsciously turned to Liemo. Just as he turned his gaze over, 2 slender icicles accurately pierced into his eyes. Before he could let out a howl, the sturdy man's body fell to the ground with a bang. This scene shocked Lai Yun, who was watching the show. She turned to Lei Batian and asked, "Didn't they say that the gophers are weak and incompetent with low cultivation bases? Why are these gophers so strong?" Lei Batian narrowed his eyes slightly, his gaze falling unblinkingly on Liemo. Some of the gophers have high cultivation bases as well. For example, this one here is a peak first-rank blade master. Such a person would only be considered a mid-tier expert on the Gongyuan continent, but on the gophers continent he's probably a top-tier expert. A top-tier expert? Lai Yun continued. Has there ever been such a powerful gopher on the Gongyuan continent before? Yes. Lei Batian said. The Zheng family came from a low-tier continent, so no matter how long they stayed on the Gongyuan continent, they were considered the lowest of the low. Gophers belong in the gophers world. Those who try to snatch territory from us mid-tier continents don't have a good ending. Then why would they come to our continent? Lai Yun asked. That's not up to them, Lei Batian said. Lai Yun wanted to ask more questions, but Lei Batian stopped her with a hand gesture. The two of them continued to observe the battle in front of them. After the sky-devouring beast was repelled, it quickly launched another attack on Liemo. This time it didn't spit fire, but instead used its sharp fangs and claws to bite at Liemo. Liemo didn't face it head-on. Instead he dodged to Yun Ruoyan's side. Although Yun Ruoyan's cultivation was comparable to that of the burly man she was fighting, she was slightly weaker in terms of stamina. Just as Yun Ruoyan was about to run out of stamina, Liemo arrived near her. While dodging the sky-devouring beast, he sent a beam of spiritual energy toward the burly man. The burly man reacted quickly. When he saw the beam of spiritual energy heading toward his face, he raised his sword to block it. The light of spirit power hit the spirit sword in the big man's hand. With a clang, the spirit sword in the big man's hand was knocked away. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yun Ruoyan pointed the scarlet eye sword at the burly man's chest. The sword flew out of her hand and shot straight out of the burly man's chest. Due to the extremely high temperature of the scarlet eye spirit sword, A charred wound was left on the burly man's chest where his heart had been pierced. Go help Zhou Yifeng, Li Mo instructed Yun Ruoyan. All right. Yun Ruoyan nodded and went to Zhou Yifeng's side, helping him deal with the burly 9th-rank blade master. Qin Feng on the other hand protected Lan Ying as they retreated. With Yun Ruoyan's help, Zhou Yifeng was able to relax considerably. 2 8th-rank blade masters quickly gained the upper hand against a 9th-rank blade master. It's useless. At this time Lei Yang, who had been spinning around like a top in Zhou Yifeng's hand, panted and said, "These warriors are just dogs raised by my Lei family. It's useless even if you kill them all. As long as my brother makes a move he will still die." Then why isn't he making a move? Yun Ruoyan asked. He's just watching the show. When he's done watching he'll naturally make a move. At that time you'll all be dead. If you stop now I can plead with my brother to spare your lives. He didn't sound arrogant on purpose, so Yun Ruoyan didn't doubt his words at all. You don't have to worry about that. You should worry about yourself, Yun Ruoyan replied. Shi Li Mo, Zhou Yifeng and Qin Feng all had teleportation scrolls in their hands. In the end they would still have a chance to escape. However, there were only 4 teleportation scrolls and they couldn't take Lan Ying away with them. As such they needed Qin Feng to protect Lan Ying. That big guy wants to protect that woman and escape, Lai Yun said. Lei Batian looked in Qin Feng and Lan Ying's direction and saw that not far behind them, there was a formation glowing with white light. Lei Batian's mouth curved into a cold smile. Then he flipped his hand and took out a talisman and threw it toward the formation. The talisman suddenly expanded in midair and sped toward the formation like an eagle with wings. Then a bolt of lightning struck the formation from the talisman. After being hit by such a strong impact, the white light on the formation flashed and disappeared. This scene fell into everyone's eyes. Everyone was shocked, including Li Mo. Li Mo had heard the first elder talk about the power of talismans. A few days ago Yun Ruoyan gave him a talisman. This was the first time Li Mo had seen such a thing in his life, but he never expected it to be so powerful. A small paper talisman infused with spiritual power was able to instantly destroy a formation that took 2 peak stage cultivators a day and a night to set up. What kind of powerful force was required to do this? When Qin Feng and Lan Ying saw that the space array was destroyed, their eyes were filled with despair. The 2 of them were stunned on the way. Lan Ying, take this. This is a spatial scroll. Qin Feng took out a spatial scroll and handed it to Lan Ying. Open it now and you can go home. A spatial scroll? Lan Ying took the spatial scroll in her hand and looked at Qin Feng. Let's go together. A spatial scroll can only send one person away at a time. You go first. I'll go with Li Mo and the others, Qin Feng urged. You go first. Lan Ying saw that Qin Feng was acting strangely. She was about to speak again when she suddenly felt a pain in her chest. Then she spat out a mouthful of blood. Then Lan Ying's legs went soft. Although she was supported by Qin Feng, she still slid to the ground as if she was deflated. Lan Ying, what happened to you? Lan Ying. Qin Feng held Lan Ying and asked anxiously. Lan Ying kept spitting out blood, and a purple-black palm print slowly appeared on her chest. Lei Batian. Lan Ying looked angrily in the direction of the cave entrance. There a blue figure stood quietly. Lan Ying looked at the demon-like figure and stopped breathing. Lan Ying, Lan Ying. Qin Feng called Lan Ying's name loudly, but Lan Ying could no longer give him any reaction. Qin Feng's gaze followed Lan Ying's and landed on Lei Batian. Brother Tian, what happened to that woman? Lai Yun asked Lei Batian in confusion. Dead. Lei Batian said indifferently. In this world those who want to threaten me must die, not to mention a group of rats from a low-level continent. After Lei Batian finished speaking, he took out the exquisite red handkerchief and carefully wiped his fingers. It turned out that when Lan Ying was brought into this passage, Lei Batian gently touched her body. At that time she didn't feel anything at all. However, she didn't expect that at that time, Lei Batian would actually inject his overbearing spiritual energy into Lan Ying's body. It was only now that the spiritual energy had reached her heart meridian and destroyed it. Lei Batian. Qin Feng looked at Lei Batian with bloodshot eyes. The scene of him being bullied by him in the past appeared in his mind. 2 male teachers were beaten to death by his subordinates. The rest of the teachers were also killed by them in the human hunting game. Now Lan also died in his hands. Qin Feng felt the hatred in his heart as if it was going to burst out of his chest. In the past, in order to protect the lives of the 16 students, he didn't hesitate to live like a coward. Now all 16 students had been sent away. Qin Feng no longer had any worries. Looking at Lan Ying's unreconciled appearance, the hatred in Qin Feng's heart that filled his chest could no longer be suppressed. He gently put Lan Ying on the ground, then stood up. He pointed the great ravager in his hand at Lei Batian and said fiercely, "If I don't kill you, I'm not a man." Chapter 324. Li Mo, are you all right? Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but panic when she saw Li Mo vomiting blood. Li Mo shook his head weakly, closed his eyes and fainted. The two of them carried Li Mo to the first elder's training room. The first elder fed Li Mo a spiritual pill, then infused spiritual energy into his body to treat his wounds. After an entire day and night, the healing process finally came to an end. Yun Ruoyan checked on Li Mo and found that his pale face hadn't improved much. "First elder, how's Li Mo?" Yun Ruoyan asked the first elder, who seemed much older than before. "I used spiritual energy to protect his heart meridians, but the person who injured him cultivates a very strange spiritual technique. The spiritual energy I infused into Li Mo's body is circulating erratically, and I can't quite grasp it." The first elder frowned at Yun Ruoyan. "I've protected Li Mo's heart meridians, but I can't guarantee that he'll be fine in the future. Ruoyan, what kind of expert did you encounter?" Hearing the first elder's words, Yun Ruoyan's heart was filled with anxiety and worry. She forced herself to calm down and told the first elder about their experiences in the alternate dimension. "You actually encountered Pai Batian?" The first elder was clearly shocked by Yun Ruoyan's words. From his tone, Yun Ruoyan could tell that he seemed to know this Pai Batian. "First elder, do you know this Pai Batian?" Yun Ruoyan asked. "Not only do I know him, I've even fought him before." The great elder said, "At that time he injured me to the point where my life was hanging by a thread. It wasn't easy for me to escape." So when the first elder had first entered the alternate dimension, he had encountered Pai Batian and had suffered greatly at his hands. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but ask, and the first elder began to tell her about a painful past that he had never mentioned to anyone else. Back when the first elder had entered the alternate dimension, he had entered the Pai family's territory. The people of the alternate dimension were very disdainful of those who entered from the lower continents, and the Pai family was the most prominent of them all. The great elder had said that it didn't matter how high one's cultivation was, or how high one's status was in the Deep Abyss continent. Once they were on the Dark Abyss continent, they would be nothing more than the lowliest of slaves. According to Great Elder Dark, anyone who entered a different world had the status of a slave and did the most lowly things that slaves did. This was also the reason why Great Elder Yun Lan and the others who came back from a different world never took the initiative to mention a different world. Every single one of them had an extremely high status on the Qinyuan continent. Getting them to talk about their experiences as slaves was sometimes even more difficult than killing them. The great elder said that his first job was to raise horses in the Pai clan's stables. Once, Pai Batian brought a young child to the stables to shoot arrows. The great elder accompanied them as a stableman. One of the horses was suddenly startled and the child was thrown off the horse. Although the child was young at that time, he had already begun to cultivate, so he was not injured. Seeing that the child was not injured, the great elder did not care too much. He stepped forward and helped the child up. What he didn't expect, however, was that as soon as he helped the child up, a red whip appeared above his head. At that time, the great elder was already a peak 9th rank blade master, only a step away from becoming a sword saint. Therefore the great elder was able to dodge the whip. Thunderclap Heavenly General was very surprised that the great elder had dodged his attack. Moreover, he seemed to have suddenly become interested and dismounted from his horse to engage in a battle with the great elder. The result of the battle was undoubtedly the great elder's defeat. At the time, the great elder had received several lashes from Pai Batian. Fortunately, Pai Batian didn't go all out, so even though he was on the verge of death, he still managed to survive. I was about the same age as Li Mo back then, and a 9th rank blade master's cultivation was already top-notch on the Qinyuan continent. Pai Batian, on the other hand, looked even younger than me, but his cultivation had already surpassed mine, the Great Elder sighed. First Elder, are you sure that Thunderbolt Batian was only slightly younger than you? Yun Ruoyan asked doubtfully. I'm sure. What's wrong? Great Elder asked. The Pai Batian we saw didn't look much older than Liemo. He had the appearance of a youth, but according to you he should have been about the same age as my father, Yun Ruoyan replied. You might not be aware of this. The Great Elder sat down on a chair. Once a blade master reaches the realm of a sword saint, the process of aging will be lengthened. 10 years for a normal blade master is only a year for us. Pai Batian entered the realm much earlier than I did, so he naturally looked younger than I did. In fact, he was about the same age as your parents. The Great Elder told Yun Ruoyan that Pai Batian had clearly intended to kill Liemo. Yun Ruoyan asked the Great Elder if there was a way to save Liemo. As long as there was a way, she was willing to do it, no matter how difficult. However, the Great Elder shook his head. I've already done my best. Liemo was heavily injured in the past, but he managed to survive on his own. I'm afraid he'll have to rely on himself again this time. Because the Great Elder had expended too much spiritual energy to treat Liemo's injuries, he had to immediately go into seclusion to cultivate. As a result, Yun Ruoyan was left alone by Liemo's side. Liemo lay silently on his bed, his handsome face as still as ever. Other than the slight rise and fall of his chest, there was no sign of life. Yun Ruoyan stayed by Liemo's bedside, watching over him from day to night. Liemo didn't react in the slightest. Yun Ruoyan held Liemo's hand in hers. His hand was colder than it had ever been. Yun Ruoyan's heart was filled with sorrow and fear, as if the most important part of her life was about to be taken away from her. Liemo, you can't let anything happen to you. You can't abandon me, do you understand? Yun Ruoyan caressed Liemo's pale, determined face. She stood up, bent down and planted a kiss on Liemo's lips. Just as Yun Ruoyan's lips touched Liemo's lips, Yun Ruoyan suddenly felt a reaction from Liemo. Liemo, are you awake? Are you awake? If you're awake, open your eyes and look at me, all right? Yun Ruoyan hurriedly stood up and looked down at Liemo. She stared unblinkingly at Liemo. She was sure that Liemo had opened his eyes slightly, but now they were tightly shut. Yun Ruoyan thought that her eyes were playing tricks on her. Her heart ached and her tears fell onto Liemo's lips. Yun Ruoyan once again bent down and kissed Liemo's tear-stained lips. This time Yun Ruoyan could clearly see Liemo open his eyes. Although it was only slightly, Yun Ruoyan was certain that Liemo was reacting to her presence. Because when she kissed Liemo actually responded to her by kissing her back. Yun Ruoyan, however, didn't dare to leave Liemo's side. As she kissed him, Liemo's eyes slowly opened. Liemo's hands also slowly lifted up, pulling Yun Ruoyan's small body into his embrace. His cold hands caressed Yun Ruoyan's cheeks. At first they were cold, but slowly they warmed up. Liemo, you. Yun Ruoyan was both surprised and happy. Liemo had actually woken up, and it didn't seem like there was anything wrong with his body. Yun Ruoyan was about to get up to inform the First Elder, but Liemo tightened his arms around her. Liemo's still somewhat weak voice rang out beside her ear. Yana, don't go. I need you to treat my wounds. Yun Ruoyan looked at Liemo's face. His previously rosy cheeks were rapidly turning white, and his body temperature was rapidly dropping. Liemo, how should I treat your wounds? Yun Ruoyan asked hurriedly. Liemo held Yun Ruoyan in his arms, his voice weak. I want you to give yourself to me right now. Yun Ruoyan naturally understood Liemo's words. Her eyes slowly widened as if she'd heard something inconceivable. She raised her head and looked at Liemo incredulously. Can I really treat your wounds like this? But no. I need you to heal me. That way you can heal me. Liemo's voice was weak but certain. Their eyes met and Yun Ruoyan's face reddened slightly. She nodded at Liemo. Although she was confused, as long as she could save Liemo's life, they were already husband and wife. Yun Ruoyan stood up and put down the curtains, then gently took off the gauze, revealing her fair, jade-like body to Liemo once more. Yun Ruoyan nimbly took off Liemo's clothes, revealing his firm, cold chest. His injured arm had already been bandaged and Yun Ruoyan was careful not to touch his wounds. Just as Yun Ruoyan was being careful, Liemo used his other uninjured arm to pull her into his embrace once more. This time Yun Ruoyan completely believed Li Mo's words. As the two bodies intertwined, Yun Ruoyan could feel that his vitality was slowly returning. Yun Ruoyan was very confused. She hadn't known that there was such a healing technique in this world. Li Mo, what's the matter? Yun Ruoyan was about to ask, but Li Mo stopped her with a kiss. Yen, don't ask me anything now. I'll tell you everything but not now, Li Mo murmured by her ear. Yun Ruoyan slowly sank back into the warm embrace of the sea. It was the same feeling she'd had on the night she and Li Mo had consummated their marriage. Warm, comfortable and intoxicated. Chapter 325. Yun Ruoyan woke up in the crook of Li Mo's arm. When she woke up, Li Mo was still asleep, his silver hair intertwined with her black hair. His skin was snow-white, almost translucent, and his nose was as tall as ever. His lips were so red that they looked as if they could bleed at any moment. Even though this wasn't the first time she had seen Li Mo in person, Yun Ruoyan was still stunned every time she saw him. How could there be such a breathtakingly beautiful face in this world? Furthermore, Yun Ruoyan found that Li Mo's face seemed to shock her more and more each time she saw him. Even though it was still the same face, it seemed to grow more and more seductive each time she saw him. As if sensing Yun Ruoyan's burning gaze, Li Mo slowly opened his eyes, revealing a pair of icy blue eyes that seemed to contain the stars in the night sky. You're awake. Li Mo's voice was low, his lips curled up in a doting smile as he gazed at Yun Ruoyan gently. I'm awake. The man in front of her was clearly someone she couldn't be more familiar with, but Yun Ruoyan's heart still couldn't help but race, as if she were a girl suddenly seeing the man of her first love. Li Mo sat up and the blanket slid down, revealing his smooth, snow-white upper body. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but think back to the way his upper body had been drenched in sweat, and her face turned even redder. Yen, come over here. Li Mo stretched out a hand toward Yun Ruoyan, hugging her as he did so. Yun Ruoyan only snapped out of her daze when she saw the bandages on Li Mo's hand. Li Mo was still heavily injured, but he didn't seem to be injured at all. Li Mo, weren't you injured? Yun Ruoyan looked Li Mo up and down, her voice trembling. The first elder said that you were heavily injured, and that Thunderbolt Batian tried to kill you. Yen, I'm fine now. Li Mo's heart ached when he saw Yun Ruoyan's worried expression. He hugged her in his arms and consoled, I'm fine now, look. Li Mo lifted up his injured arm and showed it to Yun Ruoyan. She could see that a layer of blue ice had begun to form on his arm. The layer of ice wrapped around the white bandage, and when Li Mo exerted some force, the ice broke and the white bandage turned to dust. Li Mo's arm was as good as new and there wasn't even a wound on it. Well, you've really recovered. Yun Ruoyan's eyes widened in disbelief. I'm not dreaming, am I? We only slept for a while. Occasionally Yun Ruoyan would dream, and what she saw in her dreams was almost like reality. As a result, when she saw the scene in front of her, she couldn't help but connect it to her own dreams. Of course it's not a dream. Li Mo lowered his head and planted a kiss on Yun Ruoyan's forehead. Only when she felt the warmth of his kiss did Yun Ruoyan's heart relax. Li Mo, you've really recovered. You scared me to death. Yun Ruoyan leaned against Li Mo's chest, her heart still pounding with fear. In Yun Ruoyan's eyes, Li Mo had always been a relatively strong presence. Apart from the first time they had met when he had been severely injured, this was the first time Yun Ruoyan had seen him injured. Yen, it's all thanks to you treating my wounds this time. Otherwise I really would have died. Li Mo stroked Yun Ruoyan's hair. Yun Ruoyan asked curiously, I treated your wounds? She suddenly remembered that Li Mo had said that he needed her help to treat his wounds, and then he had pounced on her. Could this be what he was referring to? As soon as Yun Ruoyan thought of this possibility, Li Mo spoke up. Yen, there's something I've always wanted to tell you, but I've never had a suitable opportunity. Actually, there are times when there's a chance, but I don't know how to tell you. What is it? Why don't you know how to tell me? Li Mo's words had aroused all of Yun Ruoyan's doubts. She sat up and looked at him. Because I'm afraid, Li Mo replied honestly. I'm afraid that you'll get angry and leave me. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but laugh at Li Mo's serious expression. Your Highness, is there really something that you're afraid of? In the past I wasn't afraid of anything, but that's because I didn't care about anything. Now that I care about something, I'm naturally afraid. Li Mo's tone and expression were both serious. Yun Ruoyan leaned back on Li Mo's shoulders and looked at his chiseled, jade-like chin. I'm yours now. What are you afraid of? You're mine now. Li Mo sighed as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He wrapped his arms tightly around Yun Ruoyan. You once said that you didn't want any secrets between us, and you've already told me all of your secrets. Naturally, I shouldn't hide anything from you. Even if you'll get angry, I'll tell you everything. But you have to promise me that if you're angry, you can hit me or yell at me, but you're not allowed to leave. Yun Ruoyan frowned. What could it be that Li Mo was so serious about? Could it be that he had other women besides her? If that was the case, it really wouldn't be something that could be resolved with just physical abuse. Just as Yun Ruoyan was deep in thought, Li Mo began, I actually had a motive for getting close to you. Yun Ruoyan's train of thought was interrupted. Motive? What motive? Yun Ruoyan clearly remembered that when she had first met Li Mo, she had still been the pitiful, ugly second miss of the Yun family. She was neither favored nor beautiful, so what motive could Li Mo have for getting close to her? Because I want your body. Li Mo looked at Yun Ruoyan, his hand resting on her smooth, slender shoulder. His icy blue eyes seemed to burn with a fire. Hearing Li Mo's words and seeing his expression, Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but blush again. Li Mo's next words, however, were completely out of her expectations. I don't want your body because I've fallen in love with you at first sight. In fact, I didn't fall in love with you at first, Li Mo continued. Li Mo continued, I want your body because you have a cauldron constitution, and your body will be of great help to my cultivation. Yun Ruoyan froze. This was the first time she had heard of a cauldron constitution, and she needed some time to process it. Cauldron constitution? What's a cauldron constitution? Yun Ruoyan asked. Li Mo didn't hold back at all as to what a furnace physique was, as well as its advantages and disadvantages. Those with a cauldron constitution not only have extremely high talent for cultivation, but they also have a unique advantage when faced with bottlenecks in their cultivation. This constitution also has a certain degree of resistance to poisons. The fact that you were able to survive and retain your cultivation after being poisoned by the broodmother parasite has a lot to do with your constitution, Li Mo continued. Not only that, but if you can cultivate with someone with a cauldron constitution, you'll be able to help them break through their bottlenecks and advance their cultivation. Li Mo told Yun Ruoyan that before he had learned of Yun Ruoyan's cauldron constitution, he had been a 9th-rank blade master for 2 years, but he had been unable to break through. As a result, when he found out that she was a cauldron, he couldn't help but think of cultivating with her. Li Mo hugged Yun Ruoyan even tighter. The slaughtering king, who had always been fearless, was now most afraid that Yun Ruoyan would suddenly go berserk. In that case, you broke through to become a peak blade master on the night of our wedding night? Yun Ruoyan didn't go berserk, nor did she go berserk. Instead, her tone was surprisingly calm. Yes, Li Mo replied. I'd been accumulating spiritual energy for nearly 3 years, but I hadn't been able to break through. The moment I joined hands with you, all of my spiritual energy gushed out like a flood, breaking through my bottleneck and advancing from 9th rank to a peak blade master. In that case, did you recover from your injuries because of my physique? Yun Ruoyan asked. Yes, Li Mo replied. I didn't expect your constitution to be able to help me recuperate. The spiritual energy that Thunderbolt Batian sent into my body was extremely domineering, and while I was unconscious I tried to force it out of my body, but I wasn't a match for it. But when you kissed me, when your body neared mine, the weak spiritual energy in my body suddenly grew stronger. Li Mo looked at Yun Ruoyan's expression. She had only been shocked at first, but now she was as calm as ever. But the more she was calm, the less confident Li Mo felt. If she had been a little more agitated and questioned him on why he had lied to her, or coldly accused him of lying, Li Mo would have found it much more normal. Since Yun Ruoyan didn't ask any questions, Yun Ruoyan could only explain herself. At first I was worried that this would harm your body, and that if you felt even the slightest discomfort I would stop immediately. But I found that you didn't feel any discomfort at all. In fact, you seemed to be enjoying it. When Yun Ruoyan heard Li Mo's words, she turned away. I've kept it from you. As long as you can forgive me, I'll let you do whatever you want to me, but I won't let you leave. No matter what, you're already my consort, and no matter what, you'll always be my consort. Yun Ruoyan didn't respond for a long time. Finally, she asked, Li Emma, when did you start liking me? The first time I was attracted to you was at the flower viewing party. You had an ugly face, but you exuded the aura of a peerless beauty. At that time I felt that you weren't as simple as you seemed. Then, in the lake in the Phoenix Orchard, I saw your true face and I almost had you. Li Mo's words stirred up Yun Ruoyan's memories. When Li Emo mentioned the flower viewing party and the lake in the Phoenix Orchid Forest, the face of a devilish man suddenly appeared in front of Yun Ruoyan's eyes. Yun Ruoyan suddenly struggled to sit up in Li Mo's embrace. So that man was you. It seemed as though he had never spoken so much in his entire life. By the time he was done, Li Emo felt more tired than if he'd killed 10 beasts in a row, but his heart was incomparably relaxed. Li Emo could deceive everyone in the world without batting an eyelid, and even his mother, Empress Shuetong, hadn't been able to completely see through him. But when he faced Yun Ruoyan, the woman he loved with his life, deceit and honesty suddenly became incomparably difficult for him. Li Emo looked at Yun Ruoyan as though waiting for her final verdict. Yun Ruoyan was also looking at Li Emo, the man with whom she had bowed to heaven and earth, the man with whom she had spent an entire night together, and the lover with whom she was currently naked. He looked at her with the gaze of a child, his love unreservedly conveying to Yun Ruoyan through his eyes. Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but feel her heart soften. She had experienced a painful life and she knew what was more important to her. Compared to what had happened in the past, she valued the present and the future even more. Li Emo. Yun Ruoyan finally gave Li Emo a response. Li Emo immediately leaned closer to Yun Ruoyan, his icy blue eyes staring unblinkingly at her as he waited for her to continue. Do you remember what I said to you before? If you betray me, I'll never see you again. Remember? Li Mo's eyes flashed as he looked at Yun Ruoyan, a sense of panic he had never felt before. Alright, I'll repeat myself. Li Emo, from now on, if you betray me again, we'll never see each other again. Yun Ruoyan emphasized each word. Li Emo stared at Yun Ruoyan for a long while before finally reacting. He placed his hands on her shoulders and asked, do you mean to say that you won't blame me for hiding the fact that you're a human furnace? Yun Ruoyan nodded, then shook her head. Finally she sighed. When I first heard about it, I was really angry. I don't think any woman would be willing to become a human furnace. But after thinking about it, I don't think I can blame you. If I were you, when I met someone with a human cauldron physique that could help me cultivate, I would have the same thought and put it into action, so this is not your fault. As for why you didn't tell me about this earlier, I can only say that it's fortunate that you hid it from me when I wasn't deeply in love with you. Otherwise, I really can't guarantee that I wouldn't have left you in a moment of impulse. But what should I do now? I like you so much that I can't even bear to be angry with you. Yun Ruoyan had to admit that it wasn't easy to be angry with Li Mo's breathtakingly perfect face. Yun Ruoyan sighed helplessly. Li Emo, if you hadn't betrayed me first, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to part with you. That's what I wanted to say to you. Li Emo finally relaxed and pulled Yun Ruoyan back into his embrace. Only then could the two lovers truly treat each other with sincerity. Deep in her heart, Yun Ruoyan was actually quite thankful that she had a special constitution as a furnace. If not for it, Li Emo wouldn't have been able to see her in the sea of people around her. If she didn't have such a special constitution, she would only be able to watch as Li Emo suffered such a grievous injury. Perhaps the heavens had given her this special constitution so that she could be together with Li Emo, just as the heavens must have given her some sort of mission when she was reborn. The first elder had determined that Li Mo's injuries were fatal, so when he came out of seclusion after 2 days and 1 night, he couldn't help but be surprised to see Li Emo standing in front of him, perfectly fine. However, he quickly recalled what Li Emo had told him about Yun Ruoyan's constitution, and he immediately understood what was going on. That's good. The first elder patted Li Mo's shoulder. He had been wondering how he should tell Empress Shuetong about Li Mo's injuries, but that problem had been solved. At first, Yun Ruoyan was worried that the first elder would ask too many questions, and she was prepared to take her leave. However, the first elder didn't seem interested in Li Mo's recovery, and Yun Ruoyan couldn't help but sigh. Ruoyan. The first elder suddenly turned to Yun Ruoyan. Excuse me for a moment, I have something to say to Liemo. Yun Ruoyan nodded, glanced at Liemo and walked out. Master, what's the matter? Liemo asked. Since the first elder had sent Yun Ruoyan away, there had to be something he wanted to tell her that he couldn't let her know about. I have something to tell you, the first elder suddenly said mysteriously. The first elder's tone suddenly turned mysterious. It's not that I'm intentionally avoiding Ruoyan, but it's more appropriate for you to speak to her alone. After about 5 minutes, Liemo finally emerged from the first elder's training room. Let's go. Liemo immediately pulled Yun Ruoyan out of the southern tower. Where are we going? Yun Ruoyan asked once they were out of the southern tower. To your cottage by the cliff. A green light flashed beneath Liemo's feet, and he soared into the air with Yun Ruoyan in tow. Yun Ruoyan looked down from her sword and saw that quite a few students had already gathered in the academy grounds. The holidays had ended without her noticing. Yun Ruoyan raised her head and saw that not far away, dozens of swords were piercing through the clouds and stopping in the plaza of Kongming Academy. Those were the students that her seniors had picked up from the bottom of the Kongming Mountains, those who were too weak to fly on their swords. Yun Ruoyan also saw a few familiar figures among the swords: Zhou Yifeng, Lin Qingxue and Lin Qingchen. Lin Qingchen was being carried by a senior, while Lin Qingxue was standing on Zhou Yifeng's sword. In the past, Yun Ruoyan wouldn't have felt that there was anything wrong with Zhou Yifeng carrying Lin Qingxue on his sword. However, ever since Zhou Yifeng had confessed to her that he didn't like Lin Qingxue, Yun Ruoyan had become quite disgusted with the two of them being so close. Yun Ruoyan felt that if they didn't like each other, it would be better to be decisive. If they continued to flirt with each other, one of them would surely be hurt. And between Zhou Yifeng and Lin Qingxue, the one who would be hurt would be Lin Qingxue. It looks like I'll have to talk to Lin Qingxue as soon as possible, Yun Ruoyan thought. No, let's talk to Zhou Yifeng first. She knew that Lin Qingxue was an extremely stubborn person, even more so when it came to relationships. It wouldn't be easy to convince her, and it looked like she would have to start with Zhou Yifeng. As Yun Ruoyan mulled over this, she was soon brought back to the cottage by the cliff. As soon as they entered, Liemo pressed Yun Ruoyan onto a chair. What's the matter, Liemo? Yun Ruoyan looked at Liemo curiously. What did the first elder say to you? Liemo sat down across from Yun Ruoyan. The first elder just imparted a technique to me. Yun Ruoyan exclaimed. No wonder the first elder told me to leave. It must be a secret technique that isn't taught to outsiders, right? That's right. Liemo confirmed Yun Ruoyan's guess. Indeed, it's a secret technique that isn't taught to outsiders. To be precise, there's only half of it left in Kongming Academy, and it's almost completely lost. Just now, Master suddenly remembered that he had stumbled upon this half of the technique in a secret chamber, and he handed it to me. What secret technique? Liemo's words piqued Yun Ruoyan's curiosity, and she couldn't help but ask. Liemo took out a jade slip from his pocket and handed it to Yun Ruoyan. The first half of the technique is in this jade slip. Hold it in your hand, then infuse spiritual energy into it and you'll be able to see its contents. Yun Ruoyan hesitated. Did the first elder impart this technique to you? It was passed down to us and I can't learn it alone. Only 2 people can learn it together, Liemo replied, his lips curling up in a smile. It has to be done by 2 people at the same time. I'd like to see what kind of strange technique this is. Yun Ruoyan took the jade slip and began infusing spiritual energy into it as Liemo had instructed. Immediately, 4 words appeared in front of Yun Ruoyan's eyes, along with some diagrams and explanations. When Yun Ruoyan saw the diagrams clearly, her face turned from pink to crimson, and then from crimson to blood red. The name of the technique was Yin and Yang Dual Cultivation. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.